IB Nation, welcome back to the Irish Breakdown Podcast, Notre Dame Recruiting Hour, which is typically Mondays, but you all know Monday was a holiday. We were supposed to do it on Tuesday. I had a family emergency-ish type of situation, so Brian ended up doing a mailbag on Monday. I forgot to text Sean that we weren't doing the recruiting mailbag, so he texted me. I'm so bad, man. My head was scrambled for a couple days here, but folks, we are back because it's going to be a huge weekend in recruiting. I guarantee it for you. Okay. We have the Irish Invasion, which is scheduled for Sunday. Shawnee, there is going to be a long list of very talented 2025, 2026, and 2027 targets that are going to be on campus and some guys that Notre Dame just wants to see in person for the first time. So we're going to talk about some of the headliners of the Irish Invasion. Also, guys, we're going to talk about some early thoughts on June official visits. We're going to break it up offensively and defensively. There are 7 very important official visitors coming this next month in June. So we want to preview those visits, talk about why it's important, because obviously that will give us a very good indication of where things are trending and could potentially finish in the 2025 class. But of course, want to get things kicked off with Irish Invasion. Sean, I want to say this, emphasize this again, okay? This is going to be a busy weekend, folks. Okay, it's going to be a very busy weekend. If you're not signed up at boards.irishbreakdown.com, you should go do that right now because whatever news breaks, and we've seen a couple things break over the last couple days, right? There's Jabron Payne injury. Apparently, Tyler Buckner just announced that he's going to be a walk-on wide receiver on Instagram. Like, there's crazy times here at Notre Dame, lads, and we know that recruiting never stops. So it's going to be a busy weekend. Boards.irishbreakdown.com. Brian just put a nice little team recruiting intel thing on the board a couple days ago. I literally, Sean, before we got on here, so I've been talking to a lot of NFL scouts, Blesto scouts recently, getting some early feedback on Notre Dame potential 2025 NFL draft prospects. So I just dropped a really long intel piece at boards.irishbreakdown.com, been previewing the weekend. Who knows what will come up over the next couple days. But Sean Davis, co-host of the Lucky Lucky podcast. Sean, it really hasn't been that long since we've been on together, man, but I feel like it's been forever, my friend. How are you?
It's literally been almost 2 weeks.
It has, because we did Monday the previous week, right? So it was 2
Right.
Mondays ago was our last
Close
time.
to
Yes,
it.
I guess it has been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I'm excited, man. Big time at Notre Dame, official visit season. The excitement builds up. Some commitments are coming. So you start to get that buzz. The fan base starts to get excited. And then you get the introduction of the new offers that could be coming in the 26 and the 27 class. The Irish Invasion, which I think is amazing, man. I really like the way things are now in scouting and recruiting when it comes to coaching staffs, where they get a period to go out, after their spring games, go watch kids practice, perform, which tells you the change in high schools. Like, high schools didn't start practice probably until the middle of June or July back in the day. They did 2-a-days and then they started their season. Now they have these off-season camps to give availability to coaches and staffs to come in, watch their team, their players work out, you know, get offers, things of that nature. It's absolutely wonderful and exciting time right now coming off the blue and gold game, because this gives us a lot to talk about, gives fans a lot to talk about. And then this is all just the build up to the release of NCAA 25. So, I mean, look,
Woo!
hey,
Yes, sir.
everything is wonderful. So let's get to it, man. We got some 26, 27 kids, a few 25 kids coming in this weekend, official visits.
It's going to be wild, man. It's going to be a
Yeah.
wild weekend. Because not only that, Sean, Irish Invasion also has a lot of 2025 commits that are going to be on campus. Like Deuce Knight's going to be throwing the rock around. We're going to see Christopher Burgess out there, Dominic
Mhm.
Kulak. We're going to see Elijah Burris for the first time, potentially in person, running some routes with Deuce Knight. Like, that, a lot of intriguing headlines this weekend, and we'll get to all that. Do as my man Go Irish Nate said, though, Sean, before we get going here, hit that like button, folks. I promise that you will not regret it. And yes, apparently Tyler Buckner, according to his Instagram, Sean, I have not seen the actual post, but I've had several people text me and put in the chat already. Apparently, he's going to walk on as a wide receiver. So maybe we'll talk about that at some point. I don't know. Probably not for this show, but this
Mhm.
is going to be a very interesting couple months, to say the least, leading into the month of June. But we're going to start with this weekend, which is June, Sean. So June getting started off right, June 2nd, Irish Invasion. First and foremost, Sean, and we've talked about this every single year that we've been doing this together. Irish invasion is huge for Notre Dame. I mean, historically speaking, if
Mhm.
you go back to 2 years ago when the well-known, but at the time not publicly committed CJ Carr was throwing the ball around to Cam Williams and Jack Larson and throwing the
Mhm.
rock E.S. Williams, like that was a big one, and that was kind of the onset of what ended up being a very strong offensive class in the 2024 recruiting cycle that I think we're all like super excited about the future of that class. 2025, same deal, man. Dominic Kulak was out there. Some of these top ranked defensive players in the class were out there. Some of the potential guys that you're really trying to solidify, we're out there, right? So we are going to look back at this list, and especially when we're talking about 2026 and 2027, we are not going to get the full scope of how important this weekend is for Notre Dame until several months from now, until a year from now. But I promise you all, if history repeats itself, which I'm telling you that it will, okay, this 2024 Irish invasion is going to be huge for the future of the 2026 and 2027 recruiting classes for the University of Notre Dame. There will be several players on campus this weekend, Sean, who will be a part of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the future. No doubt about it.
You get that vibe, huh? So
Oh,
you
it's
said,
easy, man. History is going to repeat itself, Sean. I'm telling you, man. The last few years under this coaching staff, particularly,
yeah.
Irish Invasion has 3 to 4 plus guys every single year that have ended up in the future class, and I have no doubt that 2026 or 2027 that is going to be the case long term. Yes,
I would set the over under at 2.5. Two
two
and a
and a half.
half. Yeah,
I
we
could
get
buy that. I
we
could
get
definitely buy that.
I think I would probably take the over. They probably get 3 commits minimum out of the invasion.
Yeah,
It's possible.
yeah,
It's possible.
yeah. I think that we'll see
I have
initial.
2 in mind already that I think
Do
eventually
you?
will commit. Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Maybe someone could throw a super chat out there and ask Sean Davis who his predictions are. I don't know if we do that type of thing, but remember, folks, no mailbag. So super chats, if you have a specific player that's going to be, because this morning I posted my Irish invasion preview, Sean. So we posted
Hmm.
some of the top names 2025, 2026, and 2027 that are going to be on campus. Let's get into the talk. We're actually going to start with the 2026 player. Okay. 2026 player to start here. 2026 Lake Mary, Florida high school quarterback Noah Grubbs, Sean, who is one of the top 2 quarterbacks on the board for the University of Notre Dame. We've talked about Noah Grubbs. We've talked about his friend and training partner, Brady Hart. At one
Hmm.
point or other, both of those players have had, and I know people love those crystal balls and the future cast predictions, all that type of stuff. At one point, each one of these players has had a prediction put in for him to end up at the University of Notre Dame. Okay. Obviously, Noah was the more recent guy comparative to Brady, but it is massive to get Noah Grubbs back on campus. 6'4", 195 pounds, trimmed down from the 220 pounds that he was as a high school sophomore. But at Lake Mary this past year, 3,670 yards, 49 touchdowns, incredibly impressive kid. Funny enough, Sean, over a year ago now at this point, Noah Grubbs had earned his offer at the University of Notre Dame at a camp. He had gone to camp, earned his offer, and a year later, he is probably the heavy favorite right now to potentially be the 2026 quarterback at the University of Notre Dame. As we talked about in the past, he is a player that has he is a player that Notre Dame has been high on for a long time. He shares obviously that sentiment and that interest in the Notre Dame program as well. Will it, and we know that the timeline is sometime this offseason to making a decision. So if this happens anytime soon, we feel really good about it for the University of Notre Dame. But it's great to get Noah Grubbs on campus. His now fourth time on campus, because he went camp last year. He went to the Ohio State game. Came back in the spring this year. So this will be the 4th time on campus for Noah Grubbs.
You know what I love? The struggle of what the quarterback room was and getting top quarterbacks to even visit South Bend. say 4 or 5 years ago. And now, consistently in each class, we seem to get the top quarterbacks visiting South Bend 2, 3, 4 times. Even if they don't end up at Notre Dame, the top quarterbacks are interested in Notre Dame. And this is being done without Notre Dame having a first round pick at quarterback, winning a national championship. So you have to tip your cap to the 180-degree change that has happened when it comes to the Notre Dame quarterback room. Like, we think the manifestation on the field is coming down
Yep.
the road, but the shift in the culture that has taken place to have a Noah Grubb showing up on Sunday,
Yep.
man, this is it's an underrated moment. Like, you say it, we say it's important, but we can look down the road and say, yo, that moment was a little bit bigger than what we thought at the time. Right? I'll just give this bookmark because I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. But the 2000, even though Notre Dame lost the way they lost in that 2012 championship game, that team in that moment did a lot for reestablishing the brand that goes far beyond their inability to win that game. And I
Just
think as we get,
visibility you're
yes,
talking about? Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And as we get further away, I think you begin to have more appreciation, even in their defeat, more appreciation for the moment and
Sure.
what was able to come from that, and even what Notre Dame is right now. So I think these moments, the last 2, 3 years, we'll look back 10 years down the line when someone is walking across the stage or has walked across the stage to shake Roger Goodell's hand on day one of the draft at that position and say, you know what? When CJ Carr went to the invasion, when Noah Grubbs went to the invasion, like, yo, we didn't know how big of a moment it was going to be, but those are really big moments.
Well, and Sean, I mean, again, we're going to understand the impact of this down the road, especially, right? Because you hit on something, the key point, and Wade Garrett had asked, which of the two quarterbacks do you think we get or want? Look, Notre Dame had made it very apparent here. Noah Grubbs, Brady Hart's, whoever wants to come first, we'll take them because we like them both a lot. If I had to make a prediction today, I would predict it to be Noah Grubbs right now because I think that his timeline is of such that's going to happen quicker than what Brady's is. And I think that both, but I would say this Notre Dame is number one for both of those players. Like, they are the top of the board for each of those players. Forget about where Notre Dame's board is. Brady Hart, extremely high on Notre Dame. Noah Grubbs, extremely high on Notre Dame. If I had to predict, I would predict Noah Grubbs to be that guy because I think that his timeline is a little more cemented and closer than what Brady Hart's is potentially going to be. So, with that in mind, though, Sean, to your point, we're going to look back at this maybe in a month or two or several weeks or whatever, and we're going to be like, wow, Notre Dame may have had their 2026 quarterback on campus at the Irish Invasion before his junior year of high school, Sean. Talk about building a 2026 class. That's 2 years in the making, right? We're talking about a kid in the year 2024 at a Notre Dame camp for the 2026 recruiting class. If Noah Grubbs does end up with Notre Dame anytime in the near future, that gives him a long window to help build what could be the best class under Marcus Freeman. I mean, because I'm a big believer in you should always aspire to be better than the previous, right? We talk about that with our kids a lot
Yeah.
with fatherhood, right? You want your kids to have better than what you had. You should want the same with Marcus Freeman's next class. You want 2026 to be better than 2025. You want a 2025 to be better than 2024, so on and so forth, right? And if they are able to get Noah Grubbs and get him in that type of setting with the other 2026 players that'll be on campus, that a lot of them don't even have offers yet, but I'm sure some will after this weekend, big momentum boost for the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah. And I can't wait. Hopefully, I don't know how my schedule is working, but I'm hoping to be able to make it and be in attendance to see not only him, but a lot of Chicago kids and a lot of talented young kids. And my first time being able to see Deuce. No, this will
Oh
be my
yeah.
second. This would be my second time seeing Deuce in person. This
Okay.
will be my
For
second time.
second time throwing or for
No, just
second time in
physically
general?
seeing him. Just
Just
physically
physically.
seeing
Okay.
him. This will be my second time. But yeah, I'm excited, man.
So important. It's so incredible to think that you might be able to see potentially back to back in drills the future of Notre Dame's quarterback room. And also, we know Deuce has a cannon. Noah Grubbs has a very strong arm as well, Sean. That was going to be an
Yeah.
impressive showing at the Irish Invasion. Let's backtrack to 2025, Sean. This is probably the most intriguing visitor of the weekend, in my opinion, because
Okay.
this one can go a lot of different ways. Okay. So 2025, Tyrone, Georgia, Sandy Creek athlete, Dalen Penson, Sean, who, by the way, is a champion high hurdler and track and field athlete for
Mhm.
Sandy Creek. He is a option quarterback in high school, ran for over 800 yards, being recruited by most schools as a defensive back. I also think that he could play wide receiver. He is now rated according to the 247 Sports composite rank, because when Notre Dame offered a couple months ago, he was like a no star or a 3-star, I think, by every platform. Now he's rated, Sean, as the number 148 overall player, number 18 corner in the class in 2025 on the 247 composite ranking that takes all the platforms into one kind of ranking system there. So platforms are now very high on Dalen Penson, who has been on the camp trail the last few
Mhm.
months, has been posting like 4 something times, high 30s verts. Like, he's been testing out of the gym, man. He's been a fast riser. Now, why this is interesting, Sean, I think we've talked about him a little bit in the past, is a lot hinders on this camp for Dalen Penson when it comes to what Notre Dame is going to do next. Okay.
Mhm.
We've talked about this. Depending how he does, and if he goes there and he really impresses the staff, there is a possibility that they could push for him in the class. Now, the question is, where is he being pushed at for? Because I had talked to Dalen pretty recently, Sean, for a visit preview. You know who his main point of contact has been? Any guess?
Oh, I thought you were about to tell us. No, I
Well,
mean,
I'm going
I
to
would.
tell you. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you.
Oh, I would
It's,
definitely guess. I would guess Mike Mickens or either Marcus Freeman. But go right ahead. I'm
well,
very interested in hearing this.
I would have guessed Mike Mickens as well, because he's being projected by most people as a defensive back on the next level.
Oh,
But
now
you
you're
hit on
about
it,
to
Sean.
you're about to tease me now. Go ahead, because now I'm getting excited. Go ahead.
You were correct with your second name. Marcus Freeman has
Mm,
been the person that has been keeping closest contact with Dalen Penson, which I
I
think is
like
just
that.
very interesting.
I
That
like that.
tells me there might not be a position designation right now for Dalen Penson. I think that they may just be recruiting him as an athlete. Now, he'll tell you defensive back is what he hears most, but I believe, Sean, that this could be a player that if he impresses this weekend, Notre Dame could push for him, and they could push for him as an athlete. Now, this isn't an easy one necessarily, because he's got a healthy offer list. He's got 22 offers now. He's got Kentucky, he's got Louisville, he's got Duke, he's got Penn State, he's got West Virginia. I mean, so he's got some legitimately good Power 4 offers at this point, but he wanted to get up to Notre Dame, Sean. He wanted to
Mm.
get up to Notre Dame. He wanted to get up to South Bend, wanted to check everything out, and he wanted to impress these coaches in person. I am fascinated, absolutely fascinated to see what happens between Notre Dame and Dalen Penson after this weekend. Because if he tests and performs the way he has been on the camp circuit so far, Sean, he might just be too good not to push for. That's possible.
See, Ryan, this is perfect. That Dalen Pinson is the young man that comes off the conversation we were having about not knowing how big the moment is. And Marcus Freeman being the guy that's pushing for this kid the most and the point of contact. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a new era in recruiting at Notre Dame. Not to say Notre Dame hasn't done well in recruiting with the predecessors. Not to say that Notre Dame didn't have very good teams and didn't make multiple college football playoffs before. But Notre Dame hasn't recruited at this level. And I'm not talking about the commits. I'm just talking about the kids that have an interest. This is what we're talking about. The kids that have legitimate interest in the Notre
Yep.
Dame offer, receiving a Notre Dame offer, and then getting up for visits to Notre Dame. Forget how it plays out, because that comes down to the ability of the coaching staff to close the deal.
Right.
That's it. You
Yep.
have to close the deal against the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Texas. It is what it is. Like James Simon just chose Texas,
Yes, he
right?
did. Yep.
Yeah, but Notre Dame was in it.
Oh, he
Notre
was in
Dame
it.
was
Yeah.
in it.
He was there in the top 5. I think he ended up
Yeah,
in the top
Notre
5.
Dame was in it.
Mhm.
That pays a dividend down the line in some way, because there are kids that watch him play in the state of Louisiana that are saying, man, Notre Dame actually might be a viable option. Let me give them a greater look. And see, this
Yep.
is the benefit of the way Marcus Freeman and the coaching staff and Chad Bowden and everybody involved are attacking recruiting. You have to bring the eyes to you. You can't sit back and just say, oh, we're Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman's not doing that. He's going out into the highways, byways. You can call it being evangelical, whatever. But he's going out and he's not waiting. He's not just saying we are Notre Dame and we're going to sit and relax on the brand that is 4 for 40 or 4 for forever. No.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Let's go get these kids. Let's go put Notre Dame in front of these kids and their families. And that's what you're starting to see, right? There's more talent at this invasion than there was, not in quantity, in quality 2 years ago. I believe that from the kids that I see on the list and watching their film.
In quantity, you said? You said in quantity.
No, in quality.
Not in quality. I'm sorry.
The quality of guys that are coming, not in quantity, right?
Got it.
And I think there was, I'll say this, the Irish invasion, in my opinion, is eventually going to become an unofficial official.
I see where
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas when the Irish invasion, when Marcus Freeman first took over, they were like, yo, we need to find talent. Let's go out and try to get some kids to come in and see if we like any of these kids. Now it's like, oh, the kids want to come.
Yeah.
Now kids want to come to the Irish invasion. The top kids are excited about getting that offer and invitation. So now it's like we're bringing these top kids in to figure out of the top kids who we really want to lock into. So now it's a little bit different than say 2 to 3 years ago when you were just trying to see if you could find some kids that could play for Notre Dame. Now I think you're starting to get elevated talent coming out that really want to come camp at Notre Dame, interested in coming and seeing the campus, seeing what the program is all about. And then you're going to start to see that pay dividends in future classes. So don't take what's happening right before your eyes for granted. You know, big things are happening.
Dalen Penson's the perfect example of what you're saying too, Sean, because he is coming on his own dime from the state of Georgia when he has a lot of viable, good options on the table. Again, he's a top 150 kid by multiple platforms now at this point, ranked as high as like number 120 in the country. He is deciding, I want to go up to Notre Dame and not earn my offer because he already has the offer. He wants to earn his spot potentially with Notre Dame if that is the right school for him. That's one. Two, Sean, to the health of Notre Dame recruiting. I know that we can get super frustrated about one decision or this decision, that decision, whatever, X, Y, and Z. But this is a fact here. If Dalen Penson doesn't perform well at the Irish invasion, Notre Dame could conceivably pass on a top 150 athlete from the state of Georgia. Think about that. Think about that. You want to talk about healthy? Being able to pass on a top 150 overall kid in a class from the state of Georgia that has been to multiple camps, has run the 4.4s consistently, has had high 30s in the verts, like 37, 38 inches in the vert, and Notre Dame could conceivably say, we already have our guys at those positions. I'm sorry. We like you, but like not quite enough, right? That is health. That is a healthy recruiting operation. And that goes back to, Sean, what we've seen in the secondary so far. You have Dallas Golden, Mark Zachary, Cree Thomas, Ivan Taylor, Ethan Long, and you could get Jadon Blair too in this class, or you could get Jameer Joseph in this class. This is a healthy situation to be in right now. Defensive back recruiting for Notre Dame is bananas, man. And we have talked about this, and I wanted to respond to Brandon. Brandon talked about Penson as a wide receiver. Brandon, it's possible. We've talked about it. Marcus Freeman is the main point of contact right now for Dalen Penson. So it's possible that if Notre Dame does end up getting Dalen Penson, if they push for him, he could end up at corner, could end up at safety, could end up at nickel, could end up at wide receiver. This is an athlete, in my opinion. This is an athlete recruit that could do a lot of different things for your team.
Yeah. And I think they are in a position where, unlike, let's say, Micah Bell, and I am drawing a blank right now. The kid that was committed to Notre Dame and eventually decommitted and went to Colorado before hopping back in the portal. Running back.
Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Edwards. Right.
Yeah.
Where there were athletes that Notre Dame were very upfront about where they stood or how they viewed them at Notre Dame. This is a young man that is still like, yo, you can come in and we can see you playing both sides of the ball. And that conversation is going to continue to take place. So I'm excited. I'm excited
Yep.
about seeing him. Like you said, man, you start saying 4-3-4-4. Those are words that weren't uttered a lot in recruiting when it comes to Notre Dame in the
Yes.
in the recent past. So I'm excited to see it. I know that.
Yes, no doubt about it. So Dalen Pence is going to be a really intriguing one, Sean. You know, a position though for these camps that is always vital for recruiting, because what is the one? And I'm asking this because I know you know the answer to it. What is the one board that Notre Dame historically, whether it was a previous coach or now, keeps a very small board? Typically,
Tight end.
very selective for obvious reasons because they develop this position group so well. Typically.
Well, I mean, you can say tight end, and you can also say offensive line.
Tight end is one for sure. That's a good point. But I was going for offensive line because you know what I think about, Sean. Last year's not even the Irish invasion. Last year's camp circuits for Notre Dame, right? 2 of the 3 Notre Dame offensive lineman commits in the 2025 class earned their offers while camping at Notre Dame. Okay. So Owen Strebig earned his offer a couple weeks after the pot of gold, not at a camp. But Will Black was a guy that was little known at that point, came to camp, left with an offer. Now rated by who's it on 3 as a 5-star recruit, right? And also, Matty Augustine was another, along with his teammate Ethan Long, that came to camp. Notre Dame liked him so much, they gave him an offer, and he became a high priority. So, if you want to talk about the positions that typically come to Irish invasion or camps in general at Notre Dame, earn offers and end up being guys that Notre Dame pushes for, I would say offensive line is like the position amongst the rest of them as far as the amount that typically happens for. So 2026 recruit, Sean, on the offensive line. I'm going to rattle off some names here and I'm going to highlight one that I really, really like. Okay. So we have Leesburg, Virginia, Loudoun County offensive lineman Carter Scruggs. We got Allegan, Michigan high school offensive lineman Sullivan Garvin. We have Merrillville, Indiana, Andrean, should sound familiar, Drake Bowen, offensive lineman Ben Novak. We have Barrington, Illinois high school 0-4s. We have offensive lineman from Chicago, Illinois, Marist, Rico Schreiber, who, by the way, is a mammoth of a blocker, by the way.
Monster.
Yes. We have offensive lineman from Dexter High School in the state of Michigan, Owen Winder, and we have Benjamin Azuka. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Benjamin. My apologies. From Novi, Michigan Catholic Central. So several very intriguing offensive linemen. All those guys I just mentioned, Sean, have multiple Power 4 offers at this point, have decent recruiting platforms. I wanted to highlight a guy that I am very high on so far, Carter Scruggs out of Loudoun County in Leesburg, Virginia, Sean. Okay. This young man rated by the 247 composite is number 111 overall player, number 8 interior offensive lineman in the class, although I think he could play offensive tackle, 6'6", 270 pounds. Here's his offer list, Sean. Does not currently hold an offer by Notre Dame, by the way, but you know what he's coming up to do? To try to get that dang thing, okay? But even though he doesn't have his offer from Notre Dame yet, maybe he will this weekend. We'll see what happens. Alabama, Georgia, Duke, Indiana, Michigan State, Penn State, NC State, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Virginia, West Virginia. Offer list so far, Sean. He's got options, friends. And I'm telling you right now, if you haven't seen some film of Carter Scruggs, go on Huddle right now. Take a look. I'm a big fan of this young man, Sean. This guy's got the goods, man. He's got the goods.
Yeah, you definitely identify him early. And it's very interesting that you see the offers that he has. But Notre Dame is a very and when it comes to offensive linemen, they're very picky, but they're very decisive. No matter who the offensive line coach has been, very picky, very decisive. There were during the transition, right? Harry steps away. He loved one particular kid that we both loved. The new coach comes in. All of a sudden, that kid is not a priority anymore, right? So I respect that. Like, at least you know Notre Dame is going to be decisive and very picky and have a short list when it comes to offensive linemen, which lends itself to being able to identify and develop. And there's a great trust in the culture. The Notre Dame offensive line culture has been consistent
Yes.
no matter who's leading the way. It's been consistent for years, for decades. And that is something that I think they all, past, present, everyone buys into it and everyone contributes to that culture still to this day. So that's something that's a great feeling no matter who comes in. That coach has to feel like, man, I have an advantage. I have a
Yep.
recruiting advantage because
Sean,
this is something that others don't have. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine, man. Have you I was just going to ask you, have you seen, well, actually, I guess I can pick your brain on two of these players because they're pretty local to you overall. But I know, obviously, we know Andrean very well for Drake Bowen. Have you seen this Ben Novak kid, man? Have you seen this young man? I mean, he's
I
listed
have
at like 6'7", 300
6'6",
plus
320.
pounds.
Yeah.
He's a huge
Yeah.
kid, dude.
I said, yo, I don't know where they're making these kids.
A sophomore, Sean.
I
A
have no
sophomore. We're
clue
talking
where
about
they're
a
making these kids.
2026 kid, man.
Yeah.
Wild.
But Andrean has become in the last 4 to 5 years, and I think at its peak, Drake was kind of the standard and has become the standard for that program. And I think now the kids that come behind Drake, they're workout warriors. That's the one thing you hear about this
Yeah.
kid, like how he loves to work out. And you see it on film. You see the
He po he
athleticism
he po
with the
he posts a lot of videos too, man. So, yeah, he definitely does work
absolutely,
out.
absolutely. But once again, that's what we heard about Drake, right? This
Yeah.
kid on his visits to Notre Dame, he would be in the gym working out in his downtime. It's like, oh, what is going on? But this is the standard that he set at Andrian, that other guys coming behind him, they want to meet that standard and even take it to
Right.
the next level. And when you see a kid, man, I love that. You see a kid that big with work ethic, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you can work with that. You can work with that. So excited to see that young man as well, to see his movement, see how he looks in person. And it's very obvious what Gino, Coach Gaduli, and what Coach Rudolph like.
Yes.
Size. It's very
Massiveness.
evident. Oh, they like massiveness. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Uh, Sean, if you end up going to Irish Invasion, man, I need a full scouting report of these offensive linemen, man, because there's gonna be a lot of size out there,
Yeah,
man. I
the
mean,
kid
the
from Chicago, he's massive.
Rico Schreiber,
Yeah,
yeah, man. I mean, he's like 6'6", 310 pounds as well. Like, he's a massive young man. So
yeah,
out of Marist, I know we talked about Marist a little bit with the Brad
right.
Fitzgibbon kid,
He's
the
getting
defensive
kid.
lineman. So
Yeah,
we talked about him a little bit. So
yeah. And
yeah,
I'm
man, there's
trying to
gonna be
figure out when it, because Fitzgibbon is a pretty big, he's a big one.
he's huge, dude.
He's a
Yeah,
big one, right?
yeah,
He's last I heard, he's getting up to like 290
yeah.
and
Well, Sean,
workout.
he's one of those kids that obviously doesn't miss a workout. You can tell, like he works his butt off, but he looks like he ate the weights, dude. Like he is just a massive young man, dude.
Yeah,
It's wild. But
yeah.
yeah, this Rico Schreiber, I apologize if I'm pronouncing it terribly, but I had looked him up, Sean, and it was like, let me make sure I'm saying the size correctly because it was, yeah. So 247 Sports has him at 6'7", 315 pounds right now,
Yeah,
Sean. Again, we're talking
yeah,
about a sophomore in high school, man.
yeah,
And like wild. And
yeah.
he's got decent offer list so far, man. Boston College, Indiana, Miami, Iowa State, Kansas, Nebraska, Purdue, Vanderbilt. Like he's got a decent
Mhm.
offer list. I just would not be shocked if a couple of these offensive linemen did not earn offers this week. That's actually the group that I'm most looking forward to seeing as far as guys that get offers after the Irish Invasion, because I looked at the offensive line group and I'm like, that might be the deepest group that is going to be at the Irish Invasion in the 2026 class, man. Like I'll talk about the
Yeah,
2027 quarterbacks, which I think is pretty wild. and we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. But the offensive line in the 2026 class, that's a talented group, man. Really
Yeah.
talented, lot of size. So very
Well,
intriguing to see that.
see, what have I don't want to be an echo chamber, but what have I been
Yes.
saying for the last month on our recruiting hour shows? It's a lot of things you can't get in Chicago, but I know what you can get:
Right.
offensive line, defensive line, and a quarterback every 2 to 3 years. Hey, we have plenty of this. You offensive line, defensive line. If that's what you need, you can come
Well,
get it. Some superstars, some depth. We got plenty of it. And like you talked about, they were in on Fitzgibbon. They were considering him. This is the individual that has to face Brad in practice,
yes.
go
Yeah.
up against them. So, the talent is there. I can't wait to see that young man. You talk about 315.
Yeah. Sean, you mentioned that there's a quarterback every 2 to 3 years in around
Mm-hmm.
the city of Chicago. So I was actually going to save this for last, but let's jump to the 2027 quarterback class that's going to be on campus. Okay. So I'm going to kind of with the offensive line. I'm just going to highlight a couple of these kids because I'm here to tell you guys, honestly, I did a board post about this earlier, Sean, for the 2027 quarterbacks on campus. It is a wildly talented group. All of these quarterbacks also Gino Gaduli was out to see during the spring evaluation period, out to see most of them throw. And he's seen most of these kids throw in person at this point. So we have Hollywood, Florida, Chaminade Madonna Prep quarterback Zach Katz. And again, these are all kids that were freshmen this past year, but all have legitimate Power 5 interest, if not Power 5 offers right now. We got
Mm-hmm.
Westchester, Ohio, Lakota West, which is the home of course, Ben Minnick, which is also the home of Tabron Benny Powell, quarterback Jackson Smith. We got Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, St. Joseph Prep, which is the home of Anthony Sacca, the 2025 linebacker commit to Notre Dame, Charlie Falk. We have Peter Bork, who is Marion, Massachusetts Tabor Academy, but he was previously, Sean, at Catholic Memorial, the high school of Boubacar Traore and Gerby Lamberts. And the guy that I was saving for last, because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Illinois quarterback, okay? Because I know you had talked to his head coach recently about him. This is Mundelein. Is that how you pronounce it? Mundelein?
Mundelein, Illinois. Yeah.
Mundelein, Illinois, Carmel Catholic quarterback Trey Taylor, Sean, who was on campus this spring. He had told me, and twice now, actually, he said the same thing. Notre Dame has let him know that he is a priority in the 2027 class. Now, we'll see if that ends up being the case because there's a lot of talented quarterbacks that are on campus. None of them have offers yet because they're 2027 kids. So even Trey Taylor, who they're telling is a priority in the class potentially, doesn't hold an offer yet. We'll see if he earns one this offseason. But regardless, Sean, I know that you had spoken to someone close to Trey Taylor, to his coach. Young kid, man, but very, very talented.
Yeah, I talked to his head coach, Jason McKee, and if that name for guys that people that are in the Chicagoland area or the Midwest, he is a former Chicago Bear and a former teammate of head coach Marcus Freeman. So there's a connection there. They won the Bears roster at the same time. They have a connection. Trey's father is a wide receiver coach at Carmel. And so he has been in contact with the coaching staff, Gino Gaduli, Marcus Freeman, and the relationship is fantastic. And I echo what Trey has also said to me and what his coach and his dad have also said to me is that Notre Dame was everything that Trey could have ever thought it could be. And the most impressive thing for Trey was the culture, just the culture, the players, the coaches, the way everything operates, the way they move, the tradition, the academics, all of that speaks for itself. He came into the visit knowing that. What he walked away with the most that impressed him was feeling like he was a priority, loving the culture, and loving the way the coaches and the players made him feel. That's vitally important. And now you talk
Absolutely.
about all of the different connections with Coach Freeman, his high school coach, their relationship, and how things play out. Of course, ultimately it's going to come down to him stepping out on that field and solidifying what they feel like they see. I'll say this. I know it's only his freshman film, but this goes along with what I saw, what I've seen in person, his interaction. Jason McKee told me this morning. He said, Sean, don't be shocked if Trey is out there coaching wide receivers during the camp. He said, don't be shocked. He said, that's who he is as a leader already. This is a young man that was given keys to an offense that was evolving. Let me give you background. Carmel High School traditionally is an option wing offense for years. It's a school that had smaller kids. It was a smaller school, didn't have an abundance of talent. Of course, with Jason McKee and his pedigree in the Chicagoland area, they were able to change that over the years. They're going into their 4th year as a program under his leadership. But as that was changing and they decided to change offenses, freshman, here you go. That lets you know how much trust they have in him as a young man. When you watch his film, the most impressive thing that I'll say, because I don't want to give away too much, because we're going to put something out and kind of put it on the message board of everything to look forward to hearing about this young man and seeing on Sunday. He has elite footwork. I heard that from his coach. I heard that from other people that have covered him. When you hear a true freshman, and the two things you hear are poise, leadership, and footwork at that age, okay, that's a kid with a pretty solid floor. And now we get to see how high his ceiling can go as his recruitment continues. And it starts on Sunday when he shows up and hopefully shows out in front of the Notre Dame coaching staff. But to me, watching his film, he's Charlie Ward-esque. That's what I get. 6'2", 185, similar build. He's very Charlie Ward-esque, the way he plays the game.
Very smooth, Sean. I like that you mentioned the footwork, because I even picked up on that. Like, he's a young kid, so he hasn't grown into his body fully yet. So I think that the arm strength is very good for his age, but it's gonna pop when he starts to fill out his frame a little bit. When I had talked to him, he had told me that he had already gained like 15 pounds this offseason, because he's like really trying to, gain weight to his frame. Because I think he was only about 160 pounds on that film. Yeah. Now he's up in like the 175-ish range right now. So interested to see what he looks like in person, man. I've seen some workout videos that he's been posting of him with his private quarterback coach and just training in general. Ball's coming out pretty well, man. But Sean, it looks like we're gonna have another talented quarterback group in 2027, by the way, man. I don't know if you've seen, because I watched Charlie Falk and I was impressed. The St. Joseph Prep kid. I liked him a lot from what I saw. I had watched Zach Katz as well, the Chaminade Madonna kid, and I thought that he had a lot of tools to work with. But I'll tell you what, Sean, the guy that may have impressed me most, or at least just early thoughts, Peter Bork, who's playing at Tabor now, that was a Catholic Memorial kid up in Massachusetts. Sean, this kid's 6'4", 180 pounds, man, and can move. And he has a live arm. I'm like, where are these kids, dude? When I was in high school, we didn't have a 6'4" freshman quarterback that was doing these types of things. It just didn't exist, man. But we're seeing multiple of them now, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? The way the game has evolved on every level now, that we're talking about true freshmen. Started even in the 26 class. We were looking at true freshmen and Brady Hart, Troy Hume, and the crazy numbers they were putting up at that young of an age. And it's like, okay, this is insane. And now we go to the 27 class, and once again, we get an early group, right? Because the evaluation continues throughout the summer and into the fall. But you get a group of kids that you're like, yo, okay. I'll take any of these kids. I mean, I don't see one that I'm like, It's like all of these kids have promise. And like you said, his frame, 6'4", 185, that kind of goes right in line with what we've seen from Deuce to Noah to Brady, them possibly entering the class in the 26 class, and now 27. That frame fits more of the mold of the quarterbacks that possibly are going to end up at Notre Dame or are committed to Notre Dame. So, I understand totally. When you look at the arm strength and you match that with the athleticism.
Yeah.
Well,
Sean, I had seen Peter Bork throw the football, so his first 5 or 6 clips of him just as a traditional drop back passer, right? And I'm like 6'4", ball comes out nice, pocket quarterback. And then there was a rep where he was evading pressure and on the move. I'm like, Oh, okay. There's more than just a. This isn't just a drop back kid. Like this kid can
Mhm.
move a little bit. Shout out to Jill in the chat, also Sean. Correct pronunciation for Carter Scruggs, Loudoun County, Virginia. So my apologies. Thank you so much, Jill, in the chat there. Loudoun County offensive lineman 2026 class. Carter Scruggs. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Appreciate it so much, Jill. Sean, a couple wide receivers we'll hit on, and then we're going to talk about the official visitors. We also have a super chat from a guy, Nathan Milton, in the chat. We'll hit that in this first segment as well. Just wanted to have a quick mention to 2027 wide receiver out of Wayne High School in the state of Ohio, Jameer Averett Brown, the only player right now in the 2027 class on the offensive side of the football that has been offered a scholarship. Wayne High School, Sean, Marcus Freeman, Mike Mickens both came out of Wayne High School. So a little connection there. But I wanted to send a quick one here. We're going to talk about one of the highest ranked kids on campus, regardless of class. And we had another super chat come in, so we'll talk about that as well. Nasir Rankin, Sean, who is a 2026 Chicago, Illinois Morgan Park athlete, rated by 247 Sports as the number 46 overall player, number 4 athlete in the class, 2026 class. Most seem to have kind of project him as a wide receiver on the next level. Does not currently hold an offer from Notre Dame, Sean, but does have offers at this point, which is not a surprise by his when you look at his recruiting platform backgrounds. He's got Nebraska, he's got Michigan State, he's got Illinois, he's got Indiana, and a couple others. So we are now looking at a highly ranked kid in the city of Chicago, does not currently hold Notre Dame offer. I know you had spoken again to the coach here of Nasir Rankin, excuse me. What can you tell us about this 2026 athlete who 6'1", 175 pounds, seems to be a versatile athlete that can do a lot of things on the next level?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Talk to his head coach, Chris James, who also is a Chicago kid, defensive back at the University of Illinois, now head coach at Morgan Park High School. And let me tell you something, Notre Dame might be getting a 2-for-1 here. This might be, if he gets an offer and eventually commits to Notre Dame, Micah Shrewsbury and Marcus Freeman could be smiling all the way to the bank with this young man. Elite basketball talent, raw wide receiver. Elite basketball talent, raw wide receiver. Raw, but elite athleticism, speed, explosiveness. That's what he's going to show. I said, Coach, what are people going to see when he steps on the field? He said, they're going to see explosiveness immediately.
Well,
Immediately.
Sean, I know you follow obviously basketball in that area specifically. Like this is
Mhm.
a legit basketball player, right? Like
Oh, absolutely. A top
this is like a
150.
D1, like
Yes.
legit kid. Okay.
Yeah. He just came off the EYBL circuit the last 2 to 3 weeks and put up incredible numbers. He transferred. He was at Whitney Young High School, and Dan
Okay.
Finger is the head coach of Whitney Young High School. Notre Dame, Mike Brown went to talk to Coach Finger during the spring evaluation period to talk about a couple of his kids, but also to talk about and get background on Nasir Rankin, because Nasir Rankin had transferred to Morgan Park High School. Why did he transfer to Morgan Park High School? There's a little bit of a transition. Historically, the basketball program at Whitney Young is top notch, right? You talk about Quentin Richardson and all the top athletes that they put out from that program. Coach Tyrone Slaughter just retired. So the program is in transition. Morgan Park is also a top notch basketball program, but a little bit higher as a football program. So he goes to and transfers to Morgan Park to get the best of both worlds, with the transition happening in the basketball program at Whitney Young. And now you enter Chris James. And Dan Finger raves about this young man, and he corroborates what Chris James says about this young man. He's an explosive, raw athlete. He's still learning the position and the nuances of the position. But when it comes to just giving him the ball and getting it in his hands and his ability to take the top off the defense, this is how they expect to use him at Morgan Park as he learns the position and grows into the position. So it's one of those evaluations that the athleticism might be a little bit too much to pass,
Yeah.
and that might get the offer, and then you evaluate and watch how he grows into the position. And that's something Mike Brown. Something else that I picked up on, I think from the vibes and the conversations, Chris James has been talking to and hearing from Gino more than anybody. That's what he told me.
That's
Not so
interesting.
much Mike Brown. He's
Huh.
been hearing from Gino. Mike Brown had been talking to Dan Finger because I think Mike Brown had a pre-existing relationship
Okay.
with Dan Finger and Whitney Young from his time in Wisconsin. So that
Gotcha.
goes to tell you that there's interest not only from Gino in
Yeah.
conversation, inquiring, but there's also interest from the wide receiver coach, which lets you know that they have true interest in this young
Yeah.
man. This is, yeah, they're really interested in this young man. And hopefully he goes out and shows what the coaches and the coaches around the Chicagoland area believe this young man can be and who he is as a wide receiver. But once again, he's not polished. If you watch his film from Whitney Young, you're not about to see great routes and things of that nature. You're going to see an athlete that you just want to get the ball in his hands, whether it's
Right.
jet sweeps, screens, or him taking the top off the defense. This is who he is as a wide receiver, and he still needs time to grow in that aspect. But from the basketball standpoint, yeah, he's a hooper. He can hoop. We plain and simple. He can hoop.
It's a very interesting player. So Nasir Rankin, guys, again, Sean, I think it's a really good point. Like, you're not going to waste multiple coach contacts on a player that you're not interested in at all, right? So there is some interest. This was Sean. I did a board post earlier. Again, this is why you should be at boards.com. I listed several players that I would not be shocked if they got an offer, depending on how they perform in Irish Invasion. He was on the short list. He was actually number one on my list. I would not be shocked if Nasir Rankin. And again, that's just me projecting and speculating. That's not me saying Notre Dame already has an offer ready for him. It's just about a mere get on campus and we'll make that happen. Just I've seen the raw tools. I see the profile of a player that could be a very, very good player on the next level if developed properly. And Coach Shrewsbury would not be would probably be pretty happy if he ended up coming to Notre Dame as well, because
Man,
maybe maybe get him on the basketball court
very
as well.
happy. Very happy. 6'1", 175, explosive. Like I said, jet sweeps, screens. Oh, 50-50 balls, which goes to his vert. He has a reported 37-inch vert,
As a
37
fresh
and a half.
as a sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that lets you know, like, he might be the one that walks on the field Sunday and everybody's like, okay,
Who the heck's that kid? Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Who the heck is that?
okay. Because certain positions, quarterbacks get that opportunity, right? Because of their arm and
Right.
their movement. Wide receivers get that opportunity. There are just certain positions that get the opportunity to wow,
Yep.
running backs in camp, environments. And so he might be one of those guys that in the report,
Mhm.
you see, oh yeah, this kid, he impressed.
Yep. Bronte Johnson was also at Irish Invasion last year, if I remember
Mm-hmm.
correctly, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, or 2 years, might have been 2 years ago. Yeah, but either way, he has been in an Irish Invasion. Someone mentioned Derek Meadows in the chat. Yes, Derek Meadows has been at Irish Invasion as well. There are a lot of top targets for Notre Dame historically. Last few years have been, I don't want to say they've been discovered at Irish Invasion. They were discovered before Irish Invasion, but Irish Invasion
yeah,
put them over the top, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Seeing them in person and seeing athletically what they bring to the table. That is our preview of the Irish Invasion. A lot of players we hit on. I know, guys, there's a long list. And if you saw my breakdown this morning at irishbreakdown.com, or if you're on the boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com and you've seen the visitor list, you know there's a lot more guys that we just don't have enough time to cover on. That would probably be a 4-hour podcast covering all of these every single player. But those are some of the top guys to keep an eye on this weekend. Sean, we had a couple of super chats we're going to get to before we get into the important official visitors in June to get you guys ready for that. But I had a question for you, actually, Sean, before we get to those two super chats. And if anybody else has a super chat, please throw it in. We're going to hit those now if we can here. Okay. So, Sean, I'm going to spell a word for you and you tell me how you think it would be pronounced. Okay. A city in Michigan that is spelled Novi? How would you pronounce that?
Let's see. Since we're coming off the spelling bee, I would ask for the origin, and the origin sounds like it might be
It's
like,
from Michigan. It's from Michigan. I'm not giving you
yeah,
a language of origin. I'm not
Norwegian,
doing that.
Scandinavian, something like that. No, I'm just teasing, man. I would just go off the spelling and say Novi.
Novi would be my guess. I think I said Novi. Apparently, and thank you for Zach Martin for this, Sean. It's pronounced No V I.
Why
How
doesn't it
do
have
you
two eyes?
why no VI? What how do you get no VI out of NOVI? No VI? What? What?
That's weird because
That's so
two
weird.
eyes, two eyes might denote, two sounds, and I could understand the no vi, but okay.
It's so weird. I'm gonna trust Zach Martin here that is the correct pronunciation, but he phonetically put it out. No capital V and then an I, as in what you see out of,
At
right? So
first,
no VI.
I don't take life that serious. It's not,
I would think
but
it's Novi or Novi. I would not think
yeah,
it's no VI. That is weird. So strange. So strange.
yeah.
Yeah, there you are. All right, two super chats we'll get to here. Shout out to Nathan Milton, Sean, who says, "What's your overall sense?" And it's a two-part question. Nathan, you're slick, dude. You did one super chat, but he has two questions in it. See, that's smart. That's smart right there, Sean. That's called bang for your buck right there. First part of his question, and thank you so much, Nathan. It's very appreciated. What's your overall sense and feeling about the 2026 recruiting class, Sean? I know it's early, but are you liking the defensive line recruiting process in 2026?
It's a loaded question, ND Milton fan.
It is. That's a deep
That's a
question too, man. It's a
that's a
deep question.
loaded question. Loaded question. Am I liking it?
Yep. I feel optimistic about it, Sean. From my early conversations. Oh, I need to tell you something very important off the air, by the way. I forgot one little piece of intel that I didn't tell you earlier.
Okay.
Some people on the board at boards.irishbreak.com will know this little bit of intel this weekend if you're signed up there, but I need to tell you something right after the podcast. I forgot to tell you this one. But that being said, I feel good about 2026, Sean. I feel good about the quarterback situation, which is a big hurdle to get over, right? Historically, at times for Notre Dame, it's been great the last couple of years, but I think you have a chance to get a big time quarterback in there. I like defensive line where they are right now. I mean, and it helps that there's a lot of Chicagoland players right now that you can kind of work off of, right? The Mikhail Blades, the Braden Joneses, potentially. I don't know where wide receivers one that I'm a little bit up in the air of where you currently are, but offensive line, I feel good about my early conversations. Linebacker is a good one. Defensive backs, you can always count on Mike Mickens. I feel good about 2026 so far, man. I do. I feel good about it. And defense line recruiting, Sean, I mean, you've talked to Mikhail Blade, you've talked to Braden Jones. I mean, you have to feel pretty good about where they are early on.
I would agree with everything you just said.
Okay.
I think the 25 class, we know there's one particular area that we would like to be improved. All right, 26 class, a little bit more optimistic about the direction, but is there a direction? Because even if I feel like you can have a menu full of good things, but it sucks when you have a menu full of good things and then you choose the one that's just not that good on the
Right.
menu.
Oh,
And
can I
you
give you
think
an example? Can I give you an
go ahead.
example?
Yeah,
I'll give
yeah,
you two examples. My
yeah.
dad is notorious for this, Sean.
Mhm.
So we go to Tony Luke's, which is a famous cheesesteak place here.
Okay.
Okay. We go to Tony Luke's. I'm going to Tony Luke's. We're going to get everyone cheesesteaks. It just opened up the one near my parents' house, right? This was several years ago now, like probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go get cheesesteaks for everyone. What does everyone want?" Cool. Cheesesteak. Cool. My dad got a burger from a cheesesteak place. I'm like, "Bro, what are we doing?" Then we went out to a steak place. I can't remember if it was Seasons 52 or Ruth Chris, but regardless. So we went out to a steak place for a dinner, okay? Sean, my dad got lamb chops.
And was
Bro, what?
disappointed, right?
We're at a steak place. What are we
Right,
doing right
right.
now?
My
Yeah.
cousin, we went to Hooters one time. My cousin got the crab legs. Think about that.
What?
No lie, true story. We went to Hooters. He got crab legs and then was in the bathroom for like an hour and a half.
Dude, the wings used to get me in the bathroom, so I can't imagine what the crab legs will do to somebody, man. Can't
So
imagine.
that's the way I feel. Like I'm optimistic about the menu of the D-line recruiting in 26, but ultimately it comes down to the evaluation and then the ability to close, man. It is what it is. Having all the options on the menu, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean if you're not going to be able to enjoy? And that's what it comes down to. But the 26 class has a chance to be better than the 25 class. And I think the 25 class is pretty darn good,
Yeah.
honestly. Heck
Yeah.
yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, the way we feel, the face is going to be just as good. The face of the 26 class is going to be just as good as the face of the 25 class. And we know that's the quarterback position. Just start right there. Just start right there. And everything from there is up. So, yeah, I agree with everything you said. And then we get to the D-line recruiting, lots of optimism. But hey, we'll see how it plays out. And then TB, I'm happy for the young man. He came to Notre Dame to win a national championship.
Yes.
He got one.
Second part of the question was thoughts on Tyler Buckner apparently returning as a walk-on wide receiver to the program. Yes.
So, hey, I'm happy for him. Man, he's playing with house money. Notre Dame education, Notre Dame degree, Notre Dame national championship in lacrosse. Yeah, well, man, let's go play football. Let's switch positions. Absolutely.
Sean, it's a no lose situation, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
we're talking about a walk on here. Someone had said like the distraction of Tyler Buckner. Is Tyler Buckner really a distraction, man? Like he's not like an outspokenly like annoying kid or something, right? Like he's not a guy that's gonna stir the pot, and he's not a guy that's annoying to be around. Like Tyler Buckner's a good kid. It didn't work out at quarterback. He's playing lacrosse. Just helped this team win a national championship. I know he didn't play a ton, but he still was a part of the team, obviously, right? The day in and day operation. And he wants to come play wide receiver for the football team as a walk on.
And
Okay, cool.
His boy probably said, "You can do it."
Yeah.
Jordan Faison probably said, "You can do it." Tyler,
well, you know who else? You know who else said he could do it too, Sean? The Notre Dame coaching staff. Obviously, there's no hard feelings there, right? And they're like, "Yeah, you can come." Look, it doesn't bother me at all because this is the thing. Notre Dame's wide receiver group is in a great situation right now, Sean. And you don't have to. Tyler Buckner doesn't have to come in and play. He just wants to be a part of the team. And if he develops into something, he develops into something. But this is a low risk situation and move. Like you're not depending on Tyler Buckner to come in and do something for you offensively next year. If he develops into a wide receiver and over the next year or two, cool. But like you don't need Tyler Buckner to be a dude for you. So it's like I don't know. Like worst case scenario, Sean, is Tyler Buckner doesn't develop and he doesn't help the football team. But it literally it could be the same thing from a positive side of things. Like he might not help you on the football field, but he's still a good kid who obviously the coaching staff and the team still like, right? So like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe he becomes a gadget player for you at some point. Maybe he develops into a wide receiver. Maybe he doesn't. Regardless, it doesn't hurt you.
I could see Tyler Buckner returning punts.
Kickoffs, maybe kickoffs.
I can see maybe. That's probably better, but I mean, I can see him on special teams. As tough, he's a tough kid. Now the correlation. Someone asked me, like, "Yo, he just played defense. Why doesn't he play defense?" And I'm like, "Dude, football is not lacrosse." Like,
I think Nathan had said something in the chat about like how would we feel about him at safety. So I mean, like. Look, he has an injury history, right? Yeah. But Sean, I mean, physically, I mean, he's 215 pounds. He runs well, and he's pretty physical as a runner. So, like, could he play some safety? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but he has the offensive mindset from a football standpoint. So,
yeah. Well, and here's the thing, because Brandon does not seem too fond of the move, Sean. But here's the thing. If Tyler Buckner gets hurt this season, God forbid, right? He's a walk-on. It doesn't matter. Honestly, like all due respect, it doesn't matter. You're not depending on him to be. It's not like they're like, oh, Tyler, yeah, man, we miss you. Come be a scholarship wide receiver and take up a scholarship spot. Like he's just a walk on. It. I don't see how this could possibly be a negative for Notre Dame. Maybe it could be a positive. Maybe it could be nothing. But regardless, I don't see a negative here, man. He's just gonna be a part of the team. It's gonna be a part of the team. Maybe he gives you a look offensively. Maybe in Navy week, Sean, he's the option quarterback in scout team, right? Like,
Oh, he can definitely be an asset. He can
yeah,
definitely be an
right.
asset, especially from a scouts team standpoint.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just don't understand the negative. I mean, he's a walk on. Like he's a walk on. He's not taking up a scholarship. This isn't a wow, our wide receiver recruiting really sucks in 2025. Let's throw Tyler Buckner a scholarship. Like that's not what's happening right now. They're literally just
And
taking him as a walk on. He doesn't count for the scholarship limit.
he's a young man that obviously loves Notre Dame.
Yeah, he came back, didn't he? Came back, yeah.
He didn't transfer to another school to try and play quarterback.
And here's the thing, Sean. If he was a negative influence or he was a distraction, you know what the coaches would have said when he came to them with this opportunity? Heck
We're good.
no.
Yeah,
Get
we're
out of
good.
here. Like
We're good.
we know that Tyler Buckner is a person, just person perspective. I'm not talking about a football player, but from a personal perspective, he was a guy that everyone liked at Notre Dame. Nobody had anything bad to say about Tyler Buckner. Zero bad things to say about Tyler Buckner as a person. So if he was a jerk, and we know already the last couple of years, Marcus Freeman's not afraid to have those tough conversations with guys, right? Whether it's, hey man, like there's not gonna be a spot for you on the field here. You might want to go somewhere else, or in recruiting of saying like, hey, just not a take right now, or we can't do this right now. He's had those difficult conversations with dudes. So
Let's
if
be honest. I think we can double check with B. Drisk on this.
yeah,
But I know for a fact Shane Walton did not want him to leave Notre Dame. Now, that might be a little bit biased there because Shane Walton played at Notre Dame.
right.
But when he was going through the process of deciding to transfer out, Shane Walton, who was his high school coach, was like, no, stick it out. And I think the staff wanted him to stay. I think he had, especially with the transition of Sam Hartman. Like,
Right.
he was the one helping Sam Hartman. He was the one being acknowledged by players as kind of being the leader during last spring. So his respect within the program, speaks for itself. So that lends itself to the ability for the program to welcome him back in with open arms.
Right.
I would venture to say if he left with bad blood, I'm sure Coach Corrigan would have hit Marcus Freeman before he came back to play lacrosse. Like, yo, what
And
transpired?
I'm sure that those coaches have been talking. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that Marcus Freeman and Tyler Buckner have had conversations. I'm sure that this has happened. I'm not talking about just a conversation right before this move was announced. I'm sure that Marcus Freeman and Tyler Buckner have talked since him coming back to Notre Dame, right? In
Mm-hmm.
depth about the conversation. Guarantee that has happened. I guarantee, because Marcus Freeman's that type of guy. And again, Marcus Freeman and Tyler Buckner was not a negative part of the program, Sean. Like there's some guys that leave that you're like, thank God that guy's gone. Like for personally, I'm not talking about as a football player for a second. I'm talking personally, like that guy sucked. Get him out of here. Like he was not a good person and he wasn't a good positive aspect of the football team. That wasn't Tyler Buckner, man. It wasn't. That kid is soft spoken. That guy's polite. There's nothing negative personally about Tyler Buckner.
He's everything that fans claim they want as a representation of student athletes at Notre Dame.
Yep.
He just, for whatever reason, could not excel on the field as much as we thought, but he became a valuable asset of a very deep national championship lacrosse team.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I mean, look, he's choosing his path, and that goes a long way. What do we tell our kids? When you treat people right,
Yep.
you'll be amazed at the doors that will be open to you down the road. Because you never
100%.
know. You never know who you're talking to.
Don't burn bridges.
And like,
Yeah.
don't burn bridges.
Yeah. Don't burn bridges, man. You're absolutely correct on that one. There's no doubt. That's a life lesson that I think everyone can take something from. Honestly, because I'll be honest, Sean, when I first started getting into the business, I'm a little bit of a ahead at times, right? Like I may have said something to someone that may have set me back a little bit and
Yeah,
professionally for a little bit, but I also was nice enough to other people that have helped me to gain traction, right? So
yeah,
the best and the worst sides of that lesson have been gained for me personally on that
yeah,
level, right? So
yeah,
yeah, as long as Notre Dame is comfortable with it, Marcus Freeman's comfortable with it, and you're not taking up a scholarship spot for a complete project, I'm good with it. I'm good.
yeah,
I'm good. We're
yeah.
cool. We're cool. We had one more question here, Sean. It was from Iden Benami. Thank you so much for the super chat. He said Joey O'Brien, who's the 2026 cornerback out of LaSalle College Prep in Pennsylvania, was very impressive on film. I'm with Brian there. Hey man, you're with me too. I think Sean liked Joey O'Brien too, man. Yeah, good football
It's
player.
just levels to it. See, this is the
Yep.
thing, right? 'Cause I think the more the young man that they evaluated over the spring, that eventually we did the show, he committed. It was a shock to everyone. He's a 3-star, and it's like the further we get away from the um, the environment, how quick it happened, and how it seemed to come out of nowhere. The further you get away from that, and you get back to the true evaluation
Wait, who are
and
we talking
what
about
you
right now?
hear,
Sorry,
I'm I'm drawing a blank. Oh,
sorry, sorry. I was just trying to make sure I was following you. My apologies. My
the
apologies.
defensive end
The
from
Gordy Salstead.
Gordy
Gordy
Selstead. Yes,
Salstead.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes.
My apologies. Yep.
The further we get away from Gordy Selstead and his commitment, the more we like him, right? It's not that we didn't dislike him. We talked about it on the show. It was just like in the midst of what we feel like are questions about the direction and what was previously in the class that's no longer in the class, and now we're here, lends to the entire feeling surrounding what's going on. But the further we get away from that and get back to just true evaluation, we come to like the young man and the talent more than we did possibly initially. And when you get to Joey, that's something you see with between myself, Ryan, Brian.
Yep.
Our reactions initially might differ, might
Yep.
be at certain levels with certain kids, right?
Mhm.
First time we watched all those 26 quarterbacks, I fell in love with Troy Hume. I
Yes.
was like, yo, I love Troy Hume, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
as time went on, I'm like, okay, Brady Hart's climbing up a little more. Wait a
Mhm.
minute, here comes Noah Grubb. So that is the way evaluation goes, man. You initially you fall in love. It's love at first sight with certain kids on film.
Right.
And with other kids, it might not be that. It could literally be the production of the film. It could be something as simple as that. The
Sure.
plays that you get in the first 3 to 4 could literally make you fall in love with the kid. And it can make you feel, oh, he's good, but I need more time about another kid. It literally can be
Right.
something as simple as that, right? I'll say it
Yep.
again. Yo, I understand. We differed on Lightfoot. You,
Yes.
me, and Brian,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
I had the ability. You saw him in person
I did.
down to you, the All American game. I saw him in person, being able to watch him play in Chicago, being here.
Yep.
Brian
Yep.
didn't have that opportunity.
Mhm.
All right. So Brian's going strictly off film. And ladies and gentlemen, the film production, whoever put his film together, did a horrible job.
Yeah, it wasn't
Did an
great. It was not
absolutely
great film.
horrible job. And that matters.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
So, I fully understand why someone watching the film would say, I don't know. I get it. But that doesn't mean that they think he stinks,
Right.
you know? So both of you liked O'Brien. Just one is just a little bit more sold and
I
impressed.
Sean, I remember saying though, after there was offered, okay, and I said, how the heck, and again, we're talking about 2026 Glenside, Pennsylvania, LaSalle College Prep cornerback, Joey O'Brien, listed between 6'3" and 6'4" and 180 pounds. I remember talking on the show, Sean, and saying, why the heck is that kid ranked so low and where are all his offers? I remember talking about that, right? And now, lo and behold, Sean, lo and behold, Notre Dame was ahead of the curve on this one. Number 65 overall player in the 2026 class, according to 247 Sports, now holds offer from Notre Dame, Florida State, Michigan, Michigan State, Missouri, Penn State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Duke, Illinois, and Indiana. So his offer list is now expanding quickly and is becoming a very well liked national recruit at this point. So, like him a ton, Iden. I'm glad that you enjoyed Joey O'Brien's film. Sean, I have a big bias scouting side for long corners that can change direction. And that's what Joey O'Brien can do, man. He
Yeah.
plays a lot of off man coverage, and you could see that flip of the hips, ability to change direction, sticky in coverage because that changed the direction in that length. So, yes, Joey O'Brien's a very good player. Iden, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. It is always very, very much appreciated. Sean, we still got 2 more segments to go, man. We're about to get into official visitors. The next 2 segments will probably be a little bit shorter just because we're only talking about 7 total players, I believe, in those 2 segments. So
Yeah.
we'll get through that here next, guys. We're going to talk about the top official visitors in the 2025 class. We'll start on the offense side of football. Before we do, if you could please hit that like button for us. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you hit the notification bell on YouTube. If you're listening to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or anything in between, make sure you do a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Boris.com. I had a 2025 NFL draft intel piece up there. Brian has had some team and recruiting intel. I will have some more recruiting intel this weekend. It's poised to be a very interesting weekend for Notre Dame recruiting. So make sure you are signed up at Boris.com. The next section, we're going to get into official visitors 2025 class here on the Notre Dame Recruiting Hour on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Sean, there is a chance that June is the final step to having a very clear understanding of what the 2025 recruiting class is going to look like at the University of Notre Dame. We are sitting here today with 22 commitments in the 2025 class, Sean. So we're expecting 26, 27 ish, somewhere in that ballpark, more than likely. So a couple wide receiver spots still open. There's a safety spot still open. We'll see if there's another defensive lineman at some point. Who knows at this point? A couple linebackers left on the board. So we're getting close here. Okay. We're getting close, but important visitors coming up this June, Sean. So let's start with the offensive side of the football because we're going to talk just wide receiver recruiting here, sir, because quarterback's done, running backs are done, offensive lineman is more than likely done, tight end is done. Wide receivers is the spot that we still need to see how it finishes up here. Chance you have 2 in the class, at least 1 though. You're going to get at least 1 more wide receiver in the class, possibly 2. So let's start in order here, Sean, of the official visit date. The first official visitor from a wide receiver in the 2025 class in June will be June 11th through 13th. Dylan Robinson, Laverne, California, Bonita High School, same high school as Noah McHale in the 2025 class, key linebacker target, which we'll talk about later. We'll talk briefly about later. He's not set up an official visit yet to Notre Dame, but we'll talk about that one later. Dylan Robinson, Sean. We've had it. Actually, Notre Dame offered another wide receiver in the 2025 class yesterday, but Dylan Robinson is still a very new member to the board. Has only been on a few weeks on the board of 2025 for Notre Dame. 2-way star for Bonita. I had an interview out with him about a week and a half ago, Sean, where he went in depth on his early relationship with Notre Dame, how recruiting's been going, all those types of things. So if you want to Google, just Google Dylan Robinson Irish Breakdown, and that will probably be the first thing that pops up on the good old Google machine. Sean, I like this kid, man. 6'2", 190 pounds. This will be his first visit to Notre Dame. He has other official visits set up. I had it in front of me. I know he's going to Utah. I believe he's going to UCLA. But other than that, let me actually just pull it up because I know I had them listed in my article real quick. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anybody out here. So Dylan Robinson, I know he had an official visit set up to Utah. Let me just make sure I have all that in front of me. Yeah, here it is. So he's got an official to UCLA, Sean, Utah, Washington, Kansas. Those are other schools that are visiting. And Sean, just on the surface level, Notre Dame should be able to beat any of those schools out on the recruiting trail. Should be able to beat them out. Now, obviously, you're a little bit later to the party compared to some others, right? I mean, you just offered a few weeks ago, but very good early signs here. One, high academic kid,
Yeah.
isn't afraid to go away from home, which is why he's taking officials to Notre Dame and Kansas, right? So he's obviously not afraid to leave the state of California. He's also going to Utah, Washington. He's not afraid to stay in California. And I think that there's a chance here, Sean. I think that there's a chance. I actually would say that Notre Dame's in a pretty good spot right now with Dylan Robinson. I think that they are going to end up being one of the key leaders for him going down the stretch. He's eyeing potentially a decision in the summer, which I think is big for Notre Dame. We'll have a little bit of clarity on 2025 wide receiver recruiting. This is a very interesting one, Sean, because you have his early attention, a lot of interest there. But if you're able to get, when you get him on campus on the 11th through the 13th, you have a chance to really push the needle and become the leader for Dylan Robinson down the stretch, man, because you have already piqued his interest and gained high level of it despite never being on campus. We talk about this all the time. Important to get guys on campus because it usually turns intrigue into interest, and it usually turns interest into high interest. I think Notre Dame's got a chance to really impress Dylan Robinson on the 11th through the 13th.
I think they've impressed them to a certain degree already. And to get this young man on campus for the official visit, he, in my opinion, is one of those, once again, you see the offer, and what do you say? Because of where the recruiting stands with wide receivers, you're like, yo, okay, they offered another kid. Why did they offer this kid? And then you go watch the film and you say, oh, the one thing we can say, regardless of where wide receiver recruiting stands right now, 25, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I
Say it
like
again. I'm sorry.
No,
Say that
no.
one more time. My
I'm
bad.
saying, regardless of where it stands as far as
Yep.
commitments,
Mhm.
I like the evaluation. I'm like, okay, this kid, I like this. We're gonna get to another kid coming up soon. Whereas, like, initially when they offered him, you go watch the film and it's like, okay, yeah. And this is, I think a process of building that wide receiver room and getting it to, even though we had a great class last year,
Yep.
don't you feel that the class had some type of redundancy in it where you
Mm-hmm.
really didn't have true explosiveness in the class? Like, Greathouse is going to be a top-notch receiver,
Yep.
right? But he's going to work on the inside. He wasn't anybody you were going to put at the field. I think he's starting to evolve into a wide receiver now where he can play multiple positions, but strictly
Right.
interior.
Mhm.
Because of injury, they had to use Rico out of place, which was probably a place where he wasn't as comfortable, but he still was able to produce in some form, right?
Mhm.
I think now what you see with the evaluation of this wide receiver coach is a room that is cohesive, where you have different types. But even in those different types, one can say Jaden Greathouse is an explosive receiver, even though he might not be a fast receiver, if that
Yeah,
makes sense,
it
right?
does.
You,
Yep.
from a scouting standpoint, you understand what I'm saying. Like,
Absolutely.
Debo Samuel might not be the fastest receiver, but no one wouldn't say that he isn't explosive
Oh yeah, short area is very
in short
explosive. Yeah.
area. So
Yep.
this is what I say about the evaluation. Elijah Burris has a suddenness to his game
He
and a
does.
quickness to his game where it's like, okay, I get it. And that's what we're seeing. And so when you talk about the Robinson kid, and when I watch this film, I'm like, yo, I get it. I see the explosiveness. He might not be Tanuk Hines, but I still see explosiveness when I watch both of their films and both of their games. And that, for me, is something that I'm excited about from an evaluation standpoint. You want to talk about knowing direction from an
Mhm.
evaluation and recruiting standpoint? I think
Yep.
we see that. We might be upset because we don't see the commitments yet, and we
Mhm.
want some top guys to be in the class. but we can be happy about the continuity that we see from an explosiveness standpoint when it comes to the wide receivers that are receiving offers and that are going to be. I think all three receivers that we're going to talk about that are visiting, I think all of them have explosiveness to their game.
Well, and I would say this, Sean, the three guys that we're going to talk about, and of course, let's start with Dylan Robinson. But if Notre Dame gets 2 out of 3 of these guys, I will be happy or I'll be
Mm-hmm.
good with wide receiver recruiting. Okay. If
Mm-hmm.
they strike out and you got to go to plan Bs and figure that stuff out, or you go short numbers in the class, that's where, again, my pessimism pulls in here because wide receiver recruiting has been a interesting thing to follow in the 2025 class so far. But Dylan Robinson, Notre Dame has a chance to really impress him. And I hope they do, man, because I truly do. I like his film. I
Mm-hmm.
did. Because Sean, you know what enters your mind is you're so frustrated with wide receiver recruiting. You're expecting negative when a
Mm-hmm.
new offer comes out. You're like, oh, this guy's a plan B, plan C. This kid's talented, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
talented. But I will say this is that I do think the offer of Dylan Robinson, and then they had just offered yesterday a wide receiver out of the state of South Carolina, and that is Malik Clark, who's 6'2.5" and runs in the 10.5s in the 100 meters. So he's another kid that can tall and can run, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are getting taller outside speed receivers with Dylan Robinson, and they're obviously when they added a Malik Clark to the board. I think that you are doing that, Sean, and this is my pulse. And I'd love to hear if you agree with this. This, I think, spells exactly what we've been saying about the Derek Meadows situation because there's been a little bit of a array of opinions on this. I don't think Notre Dame's in a good spot with Derek Meadows, the 2025 wide receiver out of Bishop Gorman, Las Vegas, Nevada. I do not think they're in a good spot. Now they have a chance to right that ship potentially because he's coming on June 14th through the 16th. That is when Derek Meadows is coming to campus for his official visit at Notre Dame. He's got OVs scheduled though to Michigan. He's got OVs scheduled to Alabama and a couple other SEC schools. So guys, I think that the offers to Dylan Robinson and then Malik Clark recently is telling you all you need to know about the. Am I wrong about that? No. Malik Clark is a 2025 kid. Yeah. Malik Clark's a 2025 kid. I'm making sure that I'm correct there. Yep. So they're both 2025s. Those offers going out, Sean, I think that's telling you all you need to know about Derek Meadows, right? I think that they're getting
That's
options on the
fair.
board in
Yeah.
case they miss on a Derek Meadows. Now, they have a chance again, June 14th through the 16th, to try to right the ship, but I do not feel overly optimistic as of today on where things are with a Derek Meadows.
See, it goes back to the menu reference we used earlier. It's good to go to a place with multiple options because you never know. You might order what you want and they say, you know what, we just ran out of that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. No attitude. That's good. I'll go with this. I already got my option, and it's a good option. I'm not settling. I don't feel like I'm settling because I like that just as much.
Right.
So let's rock with it. And I think that's what you're saying. We're not seeing kids that are getting offers where you're like, man, this feels like a settle. No, this feels like a really good kid. Like this is a good athlete, good film, ranking wise. Okay, if you want to go by rankings, all
Mm-hmm.
right, and stars, that's fine. But ultimately, it's evaluation, talent, and development
Right.
that ends up manifesting on the field. So that's the most important thing. And like
Yep.
I said, the evaluation, and I'm sure it's going to continue because I expect the evaluation to be stronger the more time that Mike Brown has to look at kids and look at certain classes. So, with all that being said, I'm super excited that these kids are coming in. And if they are not in great position with Derek Meadows, this
Mm-hmm.
is not a position where it's very methodical.
Is methodical.
It's
Yeah.
methodical. I think we're seeing a coach and a staff collectively because, right, I don't think this is just Mike Brown. I think Mike Denbrock is involved. Obviously, Gino has been the main one talking to Coach James about Nasir Rankin. I think we're seeing a total offensive staff attack
Mm-hmm.
offensively and at the wide receiver position. And that bodes well because now you're getting input from all different areas. And now, like you said, you're building out a room where you could have explosiveness in different areas, different sizes, different spaces. I like it. I really do. So I think they get 2 out of 3 of the guys that visit in June.
I hope so, man. Because again,
I
I will
do.
feel better about the situation. One thing that I think someone had put in, Sean, that I think is important. I think it was Salty that said, and he says it playfully, obviously, but on June 14th through 16th, Derek Meadow is going to get deuced. Let's see how he feels after that. And that's a key note. He is coming the same weekend as is Tanuk Hines, who we'll talk about in a second.
Hmm.
The same weekend that Deuce Knight is going to be on campus, Sean. Derek Meadows will be there. So I think that we can't undersell the importance of that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
Deuce Knight is a very good recruiter. He's the quarterback wide receiver relationship. I do think it's important that Deuce Knight is on campus.
That says a lot. And that talks about what you just said. Might not be in the best spot. There's an urgency to this thing. And let's go ahead and do this now. Let's make up the ground now. Let's solidify this now. Right? This might be the type of kid we don't want this to get into the fall.
Right.
We do not want, because if it gets into the fall, more than likely, the advantage is not going to be geared towards us, right?
Yeah.
You
Well,
and that's awareness that, as a staff. Like
mhm.
you see awareness as a staff.
I agree.
And,
I agree completely because I had said this a couple months ago, Sean. When Kalen DeBoer had left for Alabama, it
mhm,
was Notre Dame's. Like that was it. Derek Meadows,
yeah,
Notre Dame. We knew it was the Notre Dame Washington battle. As soon as Kalen DeBoer was out, he didn't have an Alabama offer at that point. He didn't have Georgia and Tennessee and all these schools, right? Like Notre Dame was his biggest offer. And at that point, you're
yeah,
like, if this ends anytime soon, it's gonna be Notre Dame. But the further it lasted, right? You're like, oh, teams are
yeah.
getting involved here. Same thing with the Damian Shanklin thing. Now it's different because I think Damian Shanklin was just using Notre Dame as a placeholder. I don't think he was ever actually that interested in Notre Dame. I do
Mhm,
think Meadows is interested in Notre Dame. I just think, again, Alabama, it's Alabama, right? Like, I mean, we're talking
yeah.
about some good schools here, guys. Like, we're not talking about nobodies where it's just like
It's
he's going to stay
Alabama
and,
and a
go to UNLV or something, right? I
it's
mean, yeah,
Alabama and a pre-existing relationship that he was high on.
yep, yep, yep. So we'll see what happens, but obviously the longer it plays out, and I don't even feel good about it in the near future, but if you're able to flip momentum and then maybe you close it out sometime after that, I mean, maybe Notre Dame has a chance, but yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. To new kind, Sean, same weekend. He's coming June 14th through the 16th. He is the 2025 Houston, Texas Decaney wide receiver, listed between 5'11 and 6'1", somewhere in that ballpark. 10,500-meter kid. Actually, I think he ran 10.4s recently at a track meet. So my guy can fly, Sean. Very talented football player. We've talked about his fascinating backstory. Notre Dame offered in December. Felt like there was about zero momentum with Notre Dame and Tanu Kynes for a couple
Mhm.
months. About a month and a half ago now, I guess at this point, he visits the spring for the first time unofficially, and he loved it, man. He felt comfortable. It was great for him, right? Like he could see himself here, which was a big step forward because at that point Notre Dame was an afterthought in that recruitment. Now they are one of the leaders for Tanu Kynes going into this official visit season. If he has a great visit, Sean, I think Notre Dame has a very good chance to land this one in the end. It is going to be a big visit though, because it's either going to live up and exceed his expectations from the first visit, or it's going to be like, oh yeah, it was cool, but like it wasn't quite as magical as I remember, right? So Notre Dame has a chance to really push the envelope, and what did I say envelope the way I just did envelope the envelope this official visit the 14th through the 16th. New Kinds is very talented, man, and he's the type of dynamic speed that I think Notre Dame needs more of in the near future.
You said it. I concur. I second that motion. I love this kid. He has quickly become, look, I'll say it quietly. I wouldn't mind taking him above Derek Meadows. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it.
Say it, Sean.
At this
Say it.
point,
You say it.
I'm fine with him being the priority right now. He's probably not, but I wouldn't be mad if Tanuk Hine was the priority in that wide receiver room right now.
I, I like Tanuk a lot. Notre Dame likes Tanuk quite a bit as well. He is absolutely a take to our knowledge, right? So anytime he wants to come, if he does want to come to Notre
Mm-hmm.
Dame, it would be a great situation potentially.
Yep.
So Make Tanuk feel at home again, man. And I wanted to clarify because I know there was it was weird, Sean. It was 3 different sites had Tanuk Hines' official visit date on different days. It was weird. So I did verify with him the other day, though. The 14th through the 16th of June is when Tanuk will be here with Deuce Knight, which will be very important because, Sean, again, land 2 out of 3. You're okay. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good moving forward. Combining that with Cam Williams and Micah Gilbert, and we'll see what the 2026 class holds. Jaden Greathouse coming back for another year, and Jordan Faison and KK Smith. And you're like, okay, we're good. We're good here with young guys. But Notre Dame really needs to close hard on these wide receivers here.
Yeah, I agree. 2 or 3, hit 667. That's pretty good. That's Hall of Fame in recruiting there, baby.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. I didn't even have a reaction to that. Like, yeah, you're right. I agree.
Oh, by the way, your Phillies are smoking hot, dude.
They went through a little bit of a tough stretch, Sean. They lost 4 out of 5, but now they look like they're getting back into it. But I think they're 39-18 now, so they're doing well, man. They're doing well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have that on my bingo card, man, because the Phillies have traditionally the last couple years started really slow, like really slow, and then they get hot in like July, going into August. Like that's usually when they kind of hit their stride a little bit, but their stride came earlier.
Yeah, and then their nemesis, they lose Acuna for the year, so
and Strider's out for them as well.
Yeah, this might be the year.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it might be the year. I mean, it might be. I saw. Are the White Sox playing any better, Sean? Are they playing any better?
Man, our defensive players coming in June. Who we got?
That good, huh? That good. Okay. Now people are giving me pronunciation of envelope. Like, relax, guys. Just relax. Relax in the chat. That is the offensive official visitors for June, guys. We're going to get into defense here in a second. This is a little bit longer of a list. Some very talented linebackers, especially, and a couple of really good defensive backs. So we're going to get into that next. Again, you know the drill, man. You know the drill. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or anything else, whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Make sure you do a 5-star review and you're subscribed over there. Boards.irishread.com. I keep saying this, and I hope people have seen this post already. I did a big NFL draft intel early 2025 feedback I've gotten from the NFL on the board. There was team and recruiting intel from Brian the last couple weeks, last few days, I mean. Over the weekend, I'll have some more recruiting intel for you all, some exciting times. So please go to boards.irishread.com. Sean's got a couple conversations coming as well from a couple coaches he's talked to from some 2026, actually a 2026 and a 2027 potential recruit for Notre Dame. So make sure, boards.irishread.com. We're going to hit defensive recruiting next here on the Notre Dame Recruiting Hour on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Sean, defensive recruiting in the 2025 class has been a little bit of a wild ride, has it not? It's because this is how I would best phrase it, and then we'll get into the official visitors that is going to help solidify, hopefully, a very good defensive class in 2025, okay? Because it still has that potential. Defensive backs, we've just been raving for months. It's like, look what Mike Mickens is doing, man. Look at that. That's incredible. And then linebacker, we're like, good starts. Notre Dame has a chance for a very strong finish. That's awesome. And then defensive line recruiting kind of gets the air out of the sails a little bit. And we just get a little bit frustrated there, right? So it's been kind of the worst and the best of our times of covering recruiting, man. There's been amazing parts. And for the most part, it's been very good defensively this year. But then there's the negative side of some recruiting things. So let's go here, Sean. We're expecting 4 official visitors as of now. Salty, you're about to get banned in the chat. Don't mess with me, man. Don't mess with me. Linebackers. We'll talk about the first couple linebackers here, Sean, then we'll get into defensive backs, okay? Mm-hmm. June 7th through the 9th, okay? June 7th through the 9th, Notre Dame is expecting a very, very talented linebacker on campus. His name, you've heard us talk about him more and more over the last couple months. San Juan Capistrano, California, J. Sarah Catholic linebacker Madden Faramo is apparently how it's pronounced. I think so. I may have called him Feriamo at one point. It's Faramo. We're doing the pronunciation thing again. Madden Faramo, Sean, 6'3", 230 pounds, number 63 overall player, number 7 linebacker in the 2025 class on the 247 Sports composite ranking. Notre Dame just struck gold in the 2024 class with a California linebacker who was highly religious and spiritual and saw the value in Notre Dame. Right now, Sean, I think Notre Dame's the leader for Madden Faramo. I
Ramo.
did it again. Madden Faramo. I think they are the leader for him. He has a Final Four that he's working through, and I think that there's a USC is going to be a fight. Ohio State's going to be a fight. I mean, it's a close battle. But if you ask me today, do I think Notre Dame has a very good chance at Madden Faramo? Yes, I do. I think that this kid is in a very no two people are the same. Okay, so Kingston Viliamoasa's situation was much different than Madden Faramo's situation. Okay, I'm not saying they're the same person, but there's a lot of values that both hold true similarly that I think could lead this one to Notre Dame's favor again, Sean. So Madden Faramo visiting June 7th through the 9th next weekend. Notre Dame has a chance to strike gold here, man. California back-to-back years with talented linebackers.
Yeah, I think his recruiting has been very interesting because it has been a very silent roller coaster ride, right? Where you feel like
because he only talks to a couple national guys. He doesn't talk to Notre Dame beat guys, man. It is, which is funny because Madden, I hope you're listening to this, man. Love your game, by the way. But you used to talk to me, man. You used to talk to me, Sean. I had a couple early interviews with Madden Faramo, and maybe I pronounced his name wrong, and he's like, screw that guy. I don't know if that happened, right? But come on, man. Come on. But yes, he's a very talented player who has been very silent throughout this process.
So you just love that Notre Dame has found a way through the minutia, through the roller coaster, to position themselves to be able to close the deal on a talented player like this and kind of double up on talented California linebackers in consecutive years. And that bodes well, right? Because we like the linebackers currently in the class, but he definitely would be okay. Yeah, this is big time to get him in the class. And that would solidify the class. And I think we would all think they would probably have a top 10 linebacker class nationally. If you get Faramo in the class, yeah.
If you get Faramo and you have Anthony Sacca and Josiah Kia, I think it's a top 10 class. Yeah. But then there's potential to adding a fourth. And so let's talk about that fourth right now. Add into this, right? Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, who is the younger brother of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 2025 linebacker out of Bradenton, Florida, IMG Academy, originally played at the Matha Catholic here in Maryland, okay? He is visiting the same time period as Madden Faramo. He is coming on June 7th through the 9th. So you're getting your two top line. Well, Noah McHale's in that group as well. And we know about Gavin Nix also, right? But those kids have not at this point set up an official visit to Notre Dame. I expect that they'll probably get an official from Noah McHale. We'll see about Gavin Nix. But you're getting two of your top linebackers on campus the same weekend, right? So the 7th through the 9th, Sean. I feel better about Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng than I probably did about a month ago, to be honest with you. After my conversation with him, after just kind of reading some things, hearing some more, I think Notre Dame's got a chance here, Sean. Now, this is a long haul recruitment, though. He told me in word for word in an interview, he's working towards in-season commitments or a December commitment for National Sign Day. So this is not one that's going to end this summer. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent, and you have to knock this one out of the park, man, because that is the only way that I think you get Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng in this class is you do a great job at this visit and you continue that consistency of communication because I think he really likes Notre Dame, man. I do. I think there's probably that little, this is me speculating, but I think there's probably that internal debate of that's family or I want to do my own thing, right? I think that's probably a little bit of that internal debate. That's just me speculating there. But they got a chance, man. They got a really good chance here. I think that they are definitely in the top group. I think that he loves the Notre Dame program. I think that he can see himself in the blue and gold. You got to do well down the stretch here.
I think Notre Dame can lose him more than they can get him, if that makes sense. But they're going to have to fight to get him or fight extra hard not to lose him. Because I do think at his heart, if he made his decision today, just heart of hearts, Notre Dame would probably be the choice. But in the process of recruiting, there are other things to think about, right? Because we all were pondering, like, yo, Florida is part of this? Really? And now we see the news happening with the head coach and Jaden Rashada and that program. And it's like, okay.
Sean, it's been, not to cut you off, Sean, but it's been a fascinating recruitment
Mm-hmm.
because when I had talked to him several months ago, he had talked about Notre Dame and then the three Florida schools. He talked about Miami, Florida, Florida State. With his recent top group,
Mm-hmm.
Florida State wasn't included, Miami wasn't included, Florida was included, but then also Ohio State's included in that
Yeah,
conversation, USC's included in that conversation. So it's an evolving recruitment, man. But honestly, I feel better about it right now, Sean, because
I
I'd
do.
rather battle different regions than being the only school not in Florida that's fighting for a kid that's playing high school football in Florida. Does that make sense? Like, I would
I,
rather fight that fight, I think.
I think his recruitment is going to be fluid, but I think Notre Dame is going to be the constant.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame has been the constant. There's been a lot of change, a lot of shuffling, but Notre Dame has been the constant. And Florida stuck around, but then all the turmoil happening with the program is like you have to figure, where do they really stand now? So
Exactly.
once again, it is probably a young man and a family thinking like, okay, we want to make sure. Like, no, make sure. Don't just do it because it's family. Don't just do it because it feels right. Don't just do it because that's where your brother played. Don't just do it because you love it.
Right.
Make sure. Go through
Mhm.
the entire process and be honest and train. Because I'm not getting a how you get like just a dirty feeling about certain recruitments, right? With kids like changing teams and telling you one thing and
Sure.
saying another. It just feels dirty. Like they say, oh, I
Yes.
know I love Notre Dame, but it just feel doesn't feel right. I don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
I don't get that feeling from him. I
Uh,
I
uh,
I get it, transparency. I feel like he's being honest. And when you have that, what can you say as a fan? When you're getting that,
right.
go ahead. I
Right.
can wait until December if that's what it's going to take.
Sean,
Fine.
I think I've talked about this, but there was a 2023 offensive lineman Notre Dame was recruiting that gave me that exact feeling where he just,
Yes.
oh yeah, I'm gonna visit Notre Dame. Oh, I love Notre
Hmm.
Dame.
Hmm.
Well, you gonna do that at some point? Like, you're gonna visit at some point? That it just never happened. Yeah, man, you got to get through that little. You got to get through all that little farce, for the lack of
Hmm.
a better word, right? Because that stuff happens, man.
Yeah.
Is because some guys I think just really lack the ability to say no, Sean. I think they really lack the ability to say no, and then
Uh-huh.
others are just kind of continuing the facade for whatever reason, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah. And it's okay to like, it's okay for a team to be in it because you really like a coach.
right,
You might not like the school so much, but man, I really love Coach whatever his name is.
hmm
I have great rapport with him. I can see myself playing for him. And that's why they're in this. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah,
And then, I mean, because there are just so many different variables that go into this. And like you said, we're dealing with, you know, 15, 16, 17 year olds the majority of the time, and, have a relationship that we build with their parents. But, it's just honesty is
yeah.
like the coolest thing to get,
Sh-
right?
Sean, I just started laughing in my mind. I'm sorry. I was reading the chat, and Salty had said the best signal was that a guy wasn't feeling it was when a guy said the visit was good. They have nice trees there. I'm trying to Salty, please remind me who that was. I don't remember who that was, Sean. I wrote an article about a visit recap where someone literally told me that they have nice trees there. And I was like, what? What do you mean you have nice trees there? Who was that? I'm gonna rack my brain on that, man. Who was that? Oh, who was that? Had to be a 2023 kid because that was a while ago now. Had to be a 2023 kid. Who the heck said they had nice trees? Who would say that?
Hey, man. That is the part,
I'm sorry. I'm just like dumbfounded, man. I can't remember who that was. I can't. Obviously, they didn't end up at Notre Dame, Sean. They did not end up at Notre Dame. But who? It wasn't Peyton Bowen. Nah, it wasn't. It wasn't Peyton Bowen. Oh gosh,
we
that's
have to
gonna
go
drive
back.
me crazy, dude. That's gonna
We have
drive
to
me
dig
crazy.
into the archive and find out.
Salty. That's gonna drive me crazy, man. Wait, let me. I'm gonna. So I read everything in Google Docs, Sean. I'm about to type in trees and see if there's anything that pops up there, man. Because Oh, wait. Was this it? Let me. Yeah, this is
Did we
funny.
find it?
I think I found. I'm gonna say his name because he was a really nice kid. I don't think he would mind me sharing it. Let me just see if that was. Wait. Oh yeah. So it was Josiah Brown, the wide receiver from
From
New York, and
New
then
York.
signed with Penn
Yeah.
State. Yeah, it was Josiah Brown. I'm
Yeah,
reading the
nice
quote.
trees.
I'm reading the quote here, word for word. I love Josiah, by the way, man. He's a great kid. He literally came on the podcast, Sean. Really good dude. But he said the campus is beautiful. There are some very beautiful trees out there. The campus was a decent size. It was just a great visit for me and my
Now,
family.
see, that might be authentic because New York doesn't have a lot of parks,
You're right.
not a
You're
lot of
right. It,
greenery.
it was it was probably
I mean,
very
they
authentic.
have one big one in the middle of the city, but outside of that, yeah.
Shout out to Josiah Brown, man. He's gonna be a good player at Penn State, by the way. That dude was fast, man. He was
Yeah.
super fast. That's funny though. Thank you, Salty, for that stroll down memory lane. I remember writing it, but I could not for the life of me remember that
Who it was.
who said that. Yeah, I could not remember. But that's hilarious, man. That's really funny. Let's get back on track, Sean. Linebacker recruiting. So I'll ask you this question. This is going to trigger some people in the chat. Okay, it's going to trigger some people. If you get Madden Faremo and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to go along with Anthony Sack and Josiah Kia, are you okay with moving?
Owusu?
Nathaniel, what did I say?
You said Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
I'll
take him too. If he wants to come back.
I'll take Jock again. Absolutely. If you get Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, Madden Faremo to go with Anthony Sack and Josiah Kia, would you be okay with Notre Dame moving Madden Faremo to Viper?
Yeah, just get them all in the class. Just get them here. We'll deal with what we're gonna do when they get
Figure
here.
it out later.
Yeah, we'll figure that out later. I don't have a problem with that.
It's funny. I can't wait for Brandon in the chat because I know Brandon gets super triggered with moving guys to Viper. But yeah, we'll see. Jadon Blair, Sean, 2025 Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Mount Tabor safety is visiting June 11th through the 13th. Sean, we've already talked about it. Notre Dame already has an elite secondary group in 2025. Mark Zachary, Dallas Golden, Cree Thomas, Ivan Taylor, Ethan Long, all 4-star players, in my opinion. I think Ivan Taylor's a top 50 kid. I think that Dallas Golden's a top 50 kid and could be a 5-star eventually. I do think he's that type of talent athletically. Mark Zachary, top 100 player, more than likely in the class as well. Stellar group, man. Absolutely stellar.
Yeah.
You have the chance though, Sean, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Don't know if you share it. Don't know if anybody else shares it. Agree. Upstate New York is beautiful. Corey Dean said that in the chat. Love upstate New York. I hate New York City, though. Upstate New York, very beautiful. Jadon Blair, though, Sean, if you're able to get him, that's the best player in the secondary, in my opinion, in the 2025 class. I truly believe that. I think that kid is, Sean, he's not even 17 yet. Go back and watch his junior film and tell yourself that was a 16-year-old, 6'4", 190-pound safety. Tell yourself that. Then also go watch his basketball highlights because he's also an all-area basketball player. That kid is a superstar, in my opinion, potentially on the next level. Notre Dame has a chance, Sean. If they do everything right down the stretch here, they are, in my opinion, the team to beat for Jadon Blair. And if they're able to get Jadon Blair in the class, Sean, this is the elite of elite secondary class for Notre Dame in 2025.
Go get him. That's it. Plain and simple. Go get him. That's it. Must need. Go get him. Lock him up. That's it.
Throw
If
away
it's
the key.
one out of all of the guys we're going to talk about today, if there is one, if you told me there's only one kid you're going to get from all these visits,
He would
okay,
be it?
he
He'd
would
be
be
it?
it. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh
Even
yeah.
with wide receiver recruiting the way it is, huh?
Oh
You would
yep.
still take okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Because we're still offering kids.
Sure.
We're still
Sure.
offering kids. You know where safety's been.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
He's the to me, he's the star. He's the star. For Ramo, you can see him being a star,
Could be.
right? But
Yeah.
linebacker stack. Linebacker stack. Safety
Yep.
class 25 is pretty good.
Very good. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But
It's good.
if you get him, he's the dude.
He's the
He's the
dude in the
dude.
class. Yeah. All due respect,
He's the dude
I
amongst
yeah.
other good. We're talking about amongst other really good players.
Yeah.
He's the
I,
dude.
I want to reemphasize that again because I think Ivan Taylor is a top 50 player as well. I think that kid's a stud, but I agree.
Absolutely.
Jadon Blair is the guy in the class, in my opinion. But he's also a part. He's got some other guys back there too. It's not the only guy, but he's the guy. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So I mean, I just made up a scenario. I mean, that's not the case, but
Sean, could you
that's
imagine
what I
though?
think about him.
I'm thinking about this right now as you're saying this. I'm just talking from the versatility aspect, right? Because Mark Zachary could play a couple different positions, Creed Thomas could play, but I'm just going to use three guys as an example. The versatility and playmaking ability that Dallas Golden has as a boundary field corner, nickel, whatever. Jadon Blair playing either safety spot, coming down the box. He's more of a versatile player as far as placement on the field from depth. And then you have Ivan Taylor, who I think could play either safety spot or nickel if you wanted him to. I mean, some schools are literally recruiting him as a corner. Brother, how do you do much better than that? It's just a 3-man trio. Like, that is insane. Absolutely insane.
I don't know how you do much better than that, bro.
It's like, I'll say this, and I know that Archer's probably going to push back on this, which is fine. Ohio State has an incredible duo of Devin Sanchez and Naheem. Naheem offered the two double corners in the 2025 class. But look, man, I'm not sure I would trade Notre Dame secondary for that. I'm just not sure I would. I wouldn't. I'll say straight up, if they get Jadon Blair, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't trade. Wouldn't trade with anybody in the country, but Ohio State especially, because Ohio State obviously is off to an incredible start in defensive back recruiting themselves. I would not trade. Jadon Blair, I think, could be a superstar. Every big safety ever, Sean, for the next X amount of years is going to be compared to Kyle Hamilton because Notre Dame can use that as a recruiting tactic. This kid actually has Kyle Hamilton-esque skills. Like 6'4", long, super athletic.
I would be very interested because Archer's usually a pretty fair listener.
Except when he talks about Ryan Day. But otherwise, yeah, great.
Then please tell me he doesn't try to protect Ryan Day.
Well, look, I'll cut Archer a little bit of slack for a second here because I know Archer's just defending his guy. But we were talking about the differences between Urban Meyer and Ryan Day, and he was spouting off some information about how Ryan Day's had done things that are similar to Urban Meyer. And I'm just like, all right, brother, I'm out. I'm out here. I'm out. He wasn't saying that he's a better coach than Ryan Day. I mean, Urban Meyer. He followed up by saying Urban Meyer is the better coach. Like, he's not saying that he's not. But yeah.
There are the two things that are most important at Ohio State that he's yet to do, which is win a title and beat Michigan.
He beat Michigan once. But he's 1-3. Yeah.
That's not beating Michigan, being sub 500. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
And he hasn't won. I don't want to hear that. Yes, does he still get talent, the level of talent and all that? Fine. Yeah, you talk all of that. Like, stop. Just speak the truth. Speak truth to power, Archie. But I would be very interested in asking him who he trusts as a developer more. Their defensive back coaches or Mike Mickens?
I mean, who coaches defensive backs for Ohio State? I don't even know that. I should know that.
I think they just had a recent change when Knowles came over, didn't they?
I think so. I know Jim Knowles is always involved with safeties because that's kind of his background is that he's a safeties coach. But Otherwise, I'm not really sure who. I'm looking it up as we're talking, but I'm
Tim
not really sure.
Walton.
Walton. I don't know him. I don't know Walton.
Yeah, Tim Walton.
He's
He
the whole
played
secondary coach, or is he a corner safety coach? He's the whole secondary.
secondary coach cornerback.
Okay. Is there a
Yeah,
secondary coach safeties, or is that just kind of the responsibilities of Coach
yeah.
Knowles?
I guess Coach Knowles deals with the safeties probably.
That makes sense. He would always have a hand in it for sure.
Yeah.
Someone said Eliano. Eliano, is he a Perry Eliano? I don't know who that is. Yeah, we digress. He coaches safeties apparently. Eliano. Someone Brandon said coaches safeties.
Oh,
Am I
cool.
catching strays? Archer, we would never, sir. You are a valuable member of the Irish Breakdown chat, my friends. We're talking about Ohio State's secondary versus Notre Dame's secondary recruiting wise. That's all we're talking about, man.
That's all.
Came from Cincinnati, apparently, the safeties coach. I don't know anything about him, so I will defer my opinion because I truly don't know. Sean, let's wrap up with the other defensive back that will be coming, who is a guy we haven't talked about much, and part of it's just because he's also a little bit silent as far as interviews and such, and he's also kind of a person that we thought was being recruited as a corner, but we have gotten a little bit of an update on that in the last couple weeks that 2025 Montvale, New Jersey, so St. Joseph Regional defensive back Jameer Joseph will be coming. He will be coming on June 7th to the 9th. So the same weekend, the same time period as Madden Faremo and Nathaniel Wusu Boateng. Jameer Joseph will also be on campus next weekend. Very interesting player, Sean, because again, cornerback technically by trade, but apparently he can also play safety. So he can kind of do a little bit of double duty. It's going to be interesting to see just if anything happens this because clearly he likes Notre Dame, Sean. I'm just because there's only one defensive back spot left, right? There's only one defensive back spot. We think, and I feel good about that Blair, Jadon Blair is the top guy on the board. But it's just kind of weird timing that Jameer Joseph is coming before Blair, right? Like that's a little bit of a weird one. So that's one where I don't really know what to expect, but I'm very interested to see what happens with Jameer Joseph in next week.
I know if I were Jameer Joseph and his family, I would probably want to go on stage before Jadon Blair. I would, you know, I don't want to. If I'm a comedian, I don't want to go on. If they were comedians,
you're acting like he's at the combine. This massive offensive lineman just got weighed in, and then here comes this short, stubby offensive lineman right after him. Man, come on.
If they were comedians, I would definitely want to go on before him. You know, so I mean,
it's fair. It's fair.
I mean, I understand it. You know, it's somewhat a business recruiting. You know, you have to take a business approach if you're doing it right as families and be honest about the evaluation of the programs and who else they're recruiting at the position. So,
sure,
I understand that a little bit, but ultimately, and this is me speaking.
Yep.
I like Jameer Joseph's films.
I like Jameer Joseph too. I think he's good. Yep.
I like Jameer Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
See, but once again, do you see my level of excitement?
Yeah.
You see, because people would take this like, yo, he must not like Jameer Joseph. I like Jameer Joseph, but I just got through talking about Jadon Blair, dude. I mean, I can't rent back up. Mm-hmm. Like, I like the kid. And that is kind of indicative of this situation in the defensive backfield and the official visits. It's not that Jameer Joseph isn't really good and that we don't like his film. We do. But it's just like, yo, that dude, that other dude, man. And unfortunately, that's where it is, with his visit, and I would have to wonder if I were him, what are the mechanics and the dynamics of this visit? I would flat out ask. I think I would. I know if I was his dad or his parents coming in for the visit, knowing what's coming next, yo, What's up?
Yeah, sure.
What's up?
Can
Like, is
can I?
this two spots? Are there two spots
Not
or
to our
one?
knowledge. There's only one spot. Yeah,
I
there's only
mean,
one
what's up?
spot. Yeah.
We'll watch how it plays out. It's interesting.
See, Sean. This is why we never have Salty as a transcriber. Okay, he's trying to start drama in this chat. Archer, what was actually said was Ohio State is recruiting defensive back at a very high level, but if Notre Dame, in my opinion, got Jadon Blair, I would take their class over whatever Ohio State finishes at. That's just my opinion. That's all. That's all. That was it. I didn't say anything. I actually was talking about on the Irish on the message board, Sean. Someone had asked my opinion on the two corners, and I think Devin Sanchez is a stud, especially Offord's really good as well. But I
Absolutely.
really like both those kids. So
And
yes, I
my
didn't.
only thought that I added to the conversation is: would you prefer Mike Mickens as the developer or Walton and Eliano?
Right.
I mean, that was my contribution to the conversation.
That's all, man. What we need to understand here is Archer. I think we can understand this and agree on this. Don't trust Salty, man. Just don't trust him. Just don't trust him. Even though Sean, I say that, we'll also bring up a super chat from Salty. Salty, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you, sir. Salty said, if the Irish land Jadon Blair and one of their big three wide receivers, will this be the highest rated recruiting class of the last decade? Plus, DK, I do so post super chats. DK was messing with Salty earlier, saying he doesn't post super chats. If they get Jadon Blair and they land one of their three big wide receivers, Sean. So not two. We're just talking about one of. No, Sean, I was really big on the 2023 class. I think you were as well. I really like that 2023 class. I know a couple haven't worked out and there's been a couple of transfers, but like just in a vacuum as far as what the class finished up at, I really like the 2023 class. 2024 offense, it was superb as well. Like there were a couple misses defensively in my opinion, but I wouldn't say it's the best one in the decade because honestly, I would probably say 2023 is better personally. Just my take though. My take.
I think the 23 class will end up being once again what we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
What they meant, because you didn't see things happen immediately after they joined the program, but eventually what they're going to mean in the long run to the success of Notre Dame, you'll be able to look back and say, yo, that 23 class is where it all started. Or that was
Mhm.
one of the pivotal classes. So I understand what you're talking about and like the affinity we have for that class and the kids. That was really some of our initial relationship, in covering Notre Dame recruiting in that class as well. So yeah, it holds a place of importance. But I think the promise of what 25 could have been is an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, 25
It
has some high upside, man. That's some high upside.
25 as a class could have been monstrous. I mean, monstrous, and it still has a chance to be top
Sure.
five.
Yeah. So real quick, Sean, because Salty added a little something to it. He said, I'm talking in the highest rated as by rating services. This may be have the higher number that prior classes, 25, 27 kids. Salty, it's a great point. But I actually did. So the 247 Sports actually has a good class calculator thing, Sean. Now it's based upon their rankings, obviously. But I
Mm-hmm.
actually did this exercise a few days ago. I put in who I think will be the end up in the class for Notre Dame in 2025. And if we're just talking about like raw numbers, right? The raw points, Notre Dame's was actually lower than I think actually each of the last 2 years. It was like slightly lower. It wasn't ton. It was only like 2 or 3 points lower than it was last year, but still it did rank a little bit lower. So a little bit of extra context there.
I'll say this though.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna give you this. Take your
Okay.
take your recruiting hat on and put on
Yeah.
the scout. Put on the scout hat right quick.
Yeah.
What if I said there's more day one, day twos in this class than the previous classes when it comes to NFL scouting?
There's more day one, day twos. So I'm thinking of guys with high upside, obviously athleticism. So 2023 offensively, we're talking about Charles Jagasaw probably to be like that guy potentially, right? Jeremiah Love could be that guy. Jaden Greathouse, borderline that type of guy. I'll give it to him though. Defensive line, I think Bubakar has that type of raw talent. Armel, I think, has that type of raw talent. Drake Bowen, I think, has that type of raw talent. I wouldn't put Osbury in there just because I think that he's a little bit of a tweener to a degree. Christian Gray has that raw talent. So how many was that? That's
That's 8.
Gray. 8. We'll go with 8 guys I think have that upside. 2024, CJ Carr. I don't know if I go with one of the running backs. Cam Williams for sure. I would say Gerby Lambert. I would say defensive line wise, Bryce Young. Yes. Logan Thomas. Don't include Logan Thomas. I'll pass. Kingston, Viliamo Asa. And I'll go Bronte Johnson. I'll put Bronte Johnson in that
So
conversation.
that's 7 for 24. Now go to 25, and you're like, you might
Deuce.
say the entire.
Yeah. I'm doing it now. Doing it, right? Deuce. Absolutely. One of the offensive linemen. You could pick Owen Strebig.
I think 2.
Black. It might be 2.
I think 2.
Yeah, we'll go with 2. We'll go 2 there. Okay, so 2 with offensive linemen, so that's 3. Defensively, Christopher Burgess has that type of upside, in my opinion. If you get Madden Furiamo or Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng, you have that potential with both of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive back wise, you got like 4.
4.
Think,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so if you look at it from
upside, it might have higher upside.
The upside,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, Sean. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's very interesting. But yeah, well, Salty, I appreciate the super chat though, man. Again, we broke down, guys. If you missed any parts of the show, we talked Irish Invasion, gave you an hour and 16 minutes of a breakdown there. Also broke down the official visitors offensively, the official visitors defensively in the 2025 class in June. Before you go anywhere, because we really appreciate everyone for sticking with us today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, hit that notification bell. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, anything else in between, please 5-star reviews, subscribe over there. Boards.com. I've said this now 5 or 6 times in this show, but I want to reemphasize this. Recruiting and team intel have been on the board last few days at boards.com. Had a early 2025 NFL draft with insight from scouts and other sources around the league on the message board at boards.com. Over the weekend, I promise you, there will be some intel drops. Guaranteed, or your money back. There will be some intel dropped, okay? Sign up at boards.com. Thank you all so much. Have another wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you again very soon here on the Notre Dame Recruiting Hour on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.